My coworker got caught red-handed stealing my lunch during lunchtime, as this guy stole my lunch and bit into some of the spiciest food he's ever experienced in his life. As this guy literally freaked out and claimed I was trying to poison him with my food, which was incredibly satisfying to hear because this guy is a notorious food thief at the office and everybody finally knew exactly who was doing it. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and don't forget to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Okay, so I'm relatively new at my job, and if I'm being completely honest, it is not the most organized place in the world. There's a full kitchen and break room with a full fridge and freezer and even an oven. And there are no rules about the food in the fridge, which basically means that some of the food in there is to share with others, while other food is only there for private meals that people are having. Now, I just stick to what I've bought just to be safe, and I keep it in a very obvious small lunch bag just to keep it from being confused with anything that's shareable with the office. Now, it's also important to note that this is in rural North Carolina, and me personally, I'm originally from New York, and I've been here for a while, but there's still cultural differences that matter, and this situation is definitely one of those. So apparently there has been a rash of food thefts, and no one spoke about them, at least to me, and it seems that pretty much everyone was prepared to suffer in silence. So anyways, yesterday I brought my lunch in, and I basically just packed up some leftover chori pollo, and let me tell you something, it was spicy. And I really enjoy this food spicy, but holy crap, it was even just a bit too much for me. I've also learned that in this area of the world, people like things much sweeter and much less spicy than I'm used to. And trust me, this fact is going to be very important when I describe what happens next. So when I enter the break room for my lunch, a bunch of people were standing around, and one of the guys, who I will call Brent, was sitting there getting his blood pressure taken by the human resource lady. Now, I was concerned and I came over, and that's when Brent immediately started yelling at me and telling me that I tried to poison him. And holy crap, I was so confused. After a huge back and forth between the two of us, I realized that Brent had stolen and attempted to eat my lunch and was claiming that I put an inedible amount of spices on it. So immediately I'm on high alert, and I had to explain to him that, dude, I like spicy food. I didn't expect him to take my lunch. And you know what? Now that I'm looking back at it, I'm shocked that he even knew it was mine in the first place. The food was literally in a small floral lunch bag, but I didn't even put my name on it. Plus, like I said at the beginning, I'm new at my job. How did he know this was mine? So this event accomplished a few things, because this was how everybody knew that yes, it was Brent who was the food thief, but also this man's man who just prides himself on being macho can't handle even just a little bit of spice, which is something the entire office found incredibly amusing to watch. Oh my gosh, I've never done this, but I've always fantasized about doing this. Because let me tell you something, corporate jobs can be soul crushing. More times than not, you're going to be dealing with people who really just suck at life, and they're just not great people. And based on what the original poster has pretty much explained about Brent in the comment section of this post, yeah, Brent is one of those people. He just sucks across the board. Apparently everybody was dealing with this idiot for so long anyways, that him literally getting burned, but in the mouth, was apparently a welcome sight for pretty much everybody in the office. The original poster, she's basically saying that, yeah, I'm dealing with small town politics and it's the worst. And oh my god, I've been there, dude. Seriously. And this is especially annoying when it comes to lunchtime thievery. Dude, what are you doing here? How do you know this was my lunch, and why did you try to steal it from me? I get 30 minutes for a break, bro. And it's holy crap, you literally never talk to me at work, and yet you've got tabs on what my lunchbox looks like, and you obviously know my schedule enough to know when I'm not in the break room. What are you doing, dude? Plus, this is the ultimate gamble. You have no idea what I put in my lunch. I could have had the weirdest crap combined together into a sandwich, and you would never know about it. And here you are being I guess I'll take a bite. Dude, you're absolutely out of your mind. Tell me this guy's never been to a church potluck or I don't know, a community cakewalk. Good lord, you just learn not to eat some people's food, and you have to learn that unfortunately the hard way, because people are definitely not the most hygienic when they cook stuff, and this guy clearly has not experienced the horrifying things that can come from stuff like that. So yeah, this guy is a piece of crap, dude. This is literally the lowest barrier of entry for being a good coworker, and this guy still couldn't even cross that, because all this guy had to do was bring his own lunch and not steal your stuff. So in my opinion, I think this guy's burning mouth is exactly what he deserved. If you like Am I the Jerk and you're gelling with what we're doing here, first off, you need to subscribe. I mean, what are you doing? You're missing out if you're not subscribed because we got some fun things coming up. But also, be sure to check out Am I the Genius? They'll be linked down below in the description. Definitely check them out and give them a subscription. And while you're at it, if you want to share your story, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit to share your experiences or leave a comment down below. We love getting to see your comments because sometimes you guys have like hilarious takes. Like for example, a couple of days ago, someone had the same idea that, yeah, naming your daughter Petunia is weird because it's like, who would name their kid that? Oh yeah, wait, the parents did. And yeah, I'm sorry, dude, if your name's Petunia, I'm sorry, but you got a weird name. I don't like it. I feel like we're back in colonial times and all of us are like getting the flu or something. Like, I don't know. It's a weird name and I'm sorry if you have that, but it's just not my favorite. And with that, let's get to the next story. Am I the jerk for not changing a student's grade? Because currently his mom's getting on me about it, and even attempted to like hand in a different project claiming that her son did it but didn't have time to turn it in, which overall puts me in a real pickle because right now I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. For starters, I'm a middle school teacher, and 2 weeks ago we had a final science project on ecosystem models. So I asked students to build a simple model. Then they would explain how plants, animals, water, and food chains are all connected. The main rule was that the project has to be done mostly in class. I wanted to assess the students' understanding and not the knowledge of their parents. Well, one student turned in a standard like shoebox model. It was hurried with handwritten labels, little information, 2 mistakes in the food chain, and half a page explanation rather than a full page. But you know what? It wasn't horrible. So I just put a B- on it as he was just trying to make it. After I posted the grades online, 2 days later, his mom came to the classroom after school with a huge model in a box. It was a completely different project with fake moss, plastic animals, printed labels, and even a small light. She said this was the real version of the project and that her son didn't have time to finish it at school, and it was here that she asked me to change the grade. Now, I said quietly that I couldn't replace the class project with a new home model after grading. And mind you, the student was standing nearby and clearly wanted to disappear. I really didn't want to argue with the mom in front of him. So I told him that he could correct the food chain mistakes and give a short oral explanation for partial credit because we allow corrections for content errors, and I also explained that B- is still a good mark, and some other students also got it. I then told the mom that we could discuss the grading policy via email or with the administration, but I would not be replacing an in-class project with a new version done at home. Like, that's clearly not the point of the task given. By the way, I tried to be as like polite as possible because that kid was almost always near us the entire time. Now, we didn't come to any conclusion, but she has written to the assistant principal saying that I embarrassed her son and refused to accept his revised work, even though I offered an option that he could easily do. And now with all things considered, I'm kind of wondering if I did the right thing. I want to follow clear grading policy, and also I believe that such concessions can only be harmful for like a future student's ability to learn. So am I really the jerk here for not changing this kid's grade? Because I'm not sure what else to do here. Okay, dude, I think what you're doing is completely correct. I don't think you're the jerk at all. In fact, I think more teachers should have a backbone like this and be like, no, he got the grade he earned, like we're just gonna keep it exactly where it is. Because good lord, what are you talking about? He deserves a better grade. First off, a B-, if that was me, I'd be like, oh, we're taking it. I didn't even try on this shoebox model. Thank you very much. Like, that's a really good mark. It could have been way worse. And honestly, it kind of seems like the vibe in this classroom is like, oh yeah, the kid doesn't want to deal with this, but the mom's like, oh no, my son is absolutely going to be getting a better grade than a B-. And so she probably made this entire like project, brought it in and said, oh, this is the real project. And I bet one glance at that stupid thing and you'd be like, oh yeah, the parents obviously did this. Mom made that. That kid could never create something like that, which is probably genius on your part of being like, oh no, you're doing this project inside of the classroom. So overall, no, you're not the jerk at all. You're just doing your job and giving him the grade he earned. Because if this kid really wanted a better grade, then he should have like, I don't know, put more work into it and at least like finish it according to the guidelines you set out. And if he really can't do that, then that's on him and nobody else. My mom wants me to give her a second chance at like fixing our relationship, even though my entire childhood, she allowed my stepsisters to mistreat me for literally over a decade. And despite the fact that growing up, I complained about them so often, it still resulted in her turning a blind eye and doing nothing about it. But now that I'm an adult, she wants to try again. And honestly, I'm feeling hesitant about all of this and I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old female and I was 2 years old when my parents divorced. They shared 50-50 custody of me, which means I spent equal time with my mom at her house and with my dad at his. When I was 5 years old, my mom met her husband and his daughters, who were 1 year older than me and one was 1 year younger than me. He had shared custody with their mom, and during their 2 years of dating, we went a lot of places together so that we could all bond. Now, at the time, I told my mom that I felt like I was being excluded by his daughters, and it really didn't feel like we were sisters. But my mom told me, oh, that's just the shyness talking. I promise they love you and you guys will be sisters. But during the wedding, her husband's daughters were pushing me into drink tables and stepping on my dress. And when we were asked to take a photo together, they stepped in front of me so I couldn't be seen. When it was time for a photo of my mom and her husband and the three of us, they refused to stand in the middle with me. I think I spent most of the wedding in tears, and by the end of the night, my mom realized I was not getting over it super fast. And she told me not to stress because they were struggling with the wedding, because their mom wasn't happy and we'd be back to normal when it was all over. But normal meant they walked out of the room when I came in, or it meant that they would make fun of me for things like my hair being frizzy, or because I had to take extra reading due to a learning disability. It also meant they would exclude me from games with kids in the neighborhood, and when we were set up to play games together, they would refuse to share with me. They used to argue with their dad over sitting next to me at dinner or in the car, and they would actually lean into each other and away from me and would tell me not to touch them. My dad stepped in a lot to try and help me, but my mom would not listen to him. He tried to change the custody days around so I wasn't there when the girls were, but the judge refused to grant that. One time I got back to him and they had stuck 5 pieces of gum in my hair, and he had to take me to get them all cut, which the girls mocked me for when I got back to my mom. And then my mom accused my dad of being aggressive and mean, all because he yelled at her for doing nothing to protect me from the bullying. And they did other things too, like messing with me by breaking or hiding my stuff, and they would steal stuff they knew I really liked. In fact, the younger girl stole my favorite dress and gave it to one of her friends. They would spill drinks on my homework when I was almost finished, and they even did it to my laptop when I had almost all my assignments done, and it was completely intentional too, by the way. Their dad never wanted to hear me talk about his daughters, and my mom would keep telling him that it was all going to be fine and that they loved me, but had a hard time of showing it. One of the scariest things they did was when we were on vacation 5 years ago. We were forced to go explore together, and they abandoned me intentionally. They did not want to hang out with me, and I blame my mom most of all for what happened, but they really just didn't care what happened to me. I was lost for the whole day, and even when others started to panic, they literally did not care at all about my safety. They were telling jokes about the fact that, oh, she might be dead, which they literally told me about later, and my mom even reluctantly admitted to. In fact, my dad brought this up in court, and it was still not enough to get full custody of me, or even like change the days I was there. But what apparently did make a difference was my age, and the fact that they locked me out of the house without a cell phone or anything, especially when my mom and their dad were away for the weekend at a wedding. It was raining, and I had to sleep outside and everything. A neighbor saw me the next morning, and she let me into her house, and I called my dad that way. Between that and my age when it happened, I was finally allowed to just outright live with my dad. Now, at the time, my mom cried to me and said, oh, let's get lunch and all this other stuff, but I told her no, and my dad had already told her to get lost herself. After that, she went quiet for a few years, and now she's apologized, and she's asked me for a second chance to have a relationship with her. But my God, I don't know. She let me down so bad. And even if she is sorry, I just don't know that I will ever forgive her or trust her to want her in my life. So is there any situation here where I should like forgive my mom and let her back into my life? Because I really just don't know what to do anymore. Okay, I don't know about anyone else who's listening, and please correct me in the comment section like if I'm wrong about this, but for me, I would never trust my mom ever again. You expressed so many times that, hey, these kids are treating me like crap. We're talking from the age of 5 all the way up until like basically 15 or 14 years old. They were abandoning you, treating you like crap, making you sleep outside overnight in the rain. Like, my God, she let that happen. She literally allowed everything to get to that point where these people would do that to you. You complained so many times and she just didn't listen. She refused to address it or talk to her new husband at all. Like, holy crap, your mom sucks. This is not okay. So I can confidently say if I was in your shoes, I would never trust my mom in this way ever again. I would be very hesitant to have any kind of relationship with her because, dude, she betrayed you your entire childhood. She turned a blind eye to the way her stepdaughters were treating you and just said, oh, this is going to be perfect. We're just going to live a happy life and nothing's going to go wrong. They'll turn around and like you eventually, I promise. And then over a decade passes and it's like, oh, look, look, nothing's changed. They're the same little nightmares I've known since the very beginning. Like, this sucks so much. So I can't say whether you should or shouldn't do this. Like, that's completely up to you. But for me, I would be completely stonewalling her out of my life and say, no, I do not want you involved in my life at all, because this is inappropriate. It's so toxic. And for me, I just wouldn't want that kind of energy in my life. But what do you think? Like, leave a comment down below. Have you ever been in this situation before? I think this is one of those like cut and dry situations where it's like, yeah, I don't think anybody would really want to have anything to do with this lady. But if you have a different perspective and you have like your own personal experience with something similar to this, please let us know down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. My partner's cluelessness is becoming less of a quirk and more of a dangerous issue because his lack of attention on things is really causing me problems. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my partner and I have been together for 5 years, and we've lived together for about 4 years in total. He has the kindest heart. He's so patient and loving to my very impatient self, which is something I'm currently working on. He's very caring, he's funny, he loves my family, and honestly, overall, he's a total sweetheart. When we aren't arguing, we are knee-deep about our love for each other, and we always just die laughing at everything. He genuinely makes the harshness of life softer when we get to enjoy it together. Now, our relationship has been really up and down. We do find ourselves arguing a lot about past and current things that we have a hard time resolving, and for the sake of this post, I'll just leave out all the details. The one thing that really has become an issue is how aware he is. He's smart at things, but there are just way too many things to note at how clueless he can be. I want to mention that he is diagnosed with ADHD, and he's currently on medication for it. He thought it would solve some of his personal issues and in turn alleviate some of the issues in our relationship, which he blames his ADHD for. He constantly forgets to do basic things and overlooks common, sensible things. For example, he'll forget to lock the front door even though we live in a not so amazing area in the city, so this can be really dangerous for us. He's also been known to forget to turn off the stove or even blowing out candles or even stopping in the middle of the street if he misses a turn. I can't even begin to count how many of my things he has destroyed or broken simply because he wasn't being careful. He's once even gotten stranded for hours in a Costco parking lot because he didn't know where his car was. If we leave our car outside in the parking lot and then go inside to a store for like 2 minutes and then walk out, he will almost always, like 95% of the time, walk in the opposite direction of where he needs to go. He loses things constantly, like really important things. In fact, we've needed to change our locks many times because of how often he loses his keys. And yes, I have bought him AirTags, and no, he does not replace them. Hygienically, he also neglects to shower sometimes, and I have to remind him to, or to like even brush his teeth, or even get a haircut. He is terrible at maintaining cleanliness and cleaning, so usually I'm the one who always has to do it, because if not, it would always result in me reminding him, which can really be frustrating. Now, I know this is all blabber, and the more I talk about it, the more it makes me feel like I'm with a child sometimes, but for those that are still here, I'm wondering, have you ever been with or are with someone who you love very much, but they really are kind of like an airhead? And how do you deal with this, man? I'm at a loss here. The thing that really put me over the edge enough to make this post in the first place was that he did the dishes after me asking and placed the stack of plates literally halfway off the shelf. So when I opened all the doors, all of them fell off and cut me up really bad. This is not the first or second time that his recklessness has caused injury, and I'm honestly just sick of it. In fact, sometimes I've like wanted to run away from this relationship simply because of how fed up I am. I'm also feeling hopeless at the thought of having kids with him when this was something that we really wanted to do together, but the thought of him being this irresponsible and unaware just makes me scared of all the potential dangers that could happen around a child. So if anyone has any advice, please let me know. I know most of the responses are to break up, and truly, I have thought about it for a long time, but I'm making this post to see if there is anyone that has any experience or like some kind of advice that has helped in a situation like this. I'm still considering if this is a deal breaker, and sometimes it really does feel like it is, but it's so hard when I love him and he is my best friend. What should I do? Okay, dude, it kind of sounds like your partner needs to talk to like a doctor or someone who specializes in ADHD, because this might be one of the worst cases of ADHD I've ever heard of. This guy literally is walking around in a permanent state of brain fog, dude. He can't remember anything. And the fact that he's injuring you because of his carelessness, like that is unacceptable. That is really unfair for you. And honestly, that would be a very big deal breaker for me. The second my safety's on the line or anything even close to that, I don't care like how much I love somebody, I'm absolutely going to put my distance between them. So yeah, for me, I would be like, dude, get him to a doctor, someone who specializes in this, and hopefully they can help him out, because this sounds obnoxious and I would hate to deal with this. Am I the jerk for kicking my sister out of my apartment after she literally has kind of turned into a person who's not really doing anything with her life, as she's dropped out of college and she now doesn't even have a job? Here's what's currently going on. Okay, for starters, I'm a 30-year-old male and I live with my 24-year-old sister in a place that's like 1 hour away from our hometown. We've been living together since 2021 when she moved to the same town for university. There were options for her to live like in a dorm itself, but I offered her to stay for free and just help with chores, which I felt was really fair. And just for clarity, I'm renting the apartment and paying for all of the rent. Now, throughout these 5 years, we had our ups and downs, but it was mostly related to doing chores and showering. She is really slow when she's like getting ready to go out, and sometimes she will stay in the bathroom for over an hour. As a side note, my sister isn't really doing anything about her future, and I tried to talk to her about it a few times. She stopped going to university 2 years ago, and she spends her free time basically doing nothing all day, and usually just hangs out with her boyfriend and her friends occasionally. Our parents, who I cut off for things that I don't really want to get into now, still think that she's taking exams, and I never told them the truth because I think that's on her to do that. Well, a few weeks ago, I told her that she needs to start thinking about her living situation because I might be moving to another country. Even if I don't though, I'm still 30 years old, and I really do want to have my own place and my own privacy. Plus, a 2-bedroom place with my sister just won't do that. When I said this, she did throw a fit and we had a bit of a fight, but we did kind of like move on from there. She's supposed to go back to her hometown for a summer job that she found, and she plans to stay with the parents until about September. Well, today I came back from work and I took a nap, and when I woke up, I had to pee really bad, and I heard her showering, so I asked when she would be done. She then replied that she had just gone inside and that I had to wait. Well, after 30 minutes, I got so annoyed that I yelled, "You've been in there for 30 minutes, you gotta get out." About 5 minutes later, she then got out and said, "Oh, I can't wait to move out of here, you sick jerk." And at this point, I had had enough. So I said to her, "Okay, then you should leave today. I just can't deal with this anymore." She then said to me, "Oh, I'm leaving in 2 days and I won't talk to you at all until then." But I circled back and I said to her, "No, you're leaving tonight. I'm done with your teenage behavior." Now, there were more things said than this, trust me. But essentially, she said I'm a jerk and I'm someone who only cares about their career and their money and that I'm not a good person at all. She said that I throw low blows each time we talk about this. But I said I can't believe how irresponsible she is and that she takes everything for granted, expecting someone else to provide for her. In the end, she left to stay with a friend and said she would come back to pick up her things and go to our hometown for the summer, and that she doesn't intend to live with me anymore. Now, I obviously love my sister, but I feel like she's really not thinking about her future or about her life at all. I never try to control her and tell her what to do, and even offer to pay for tuition for another university. So overall, am I really the jerk here? Like, did I do anything wrong? Because I just don't know what to do anymore. No, I don't think you're the jerk. Like, I'm sure you said some mean things to her in the heat of the moment, but it doesn't really sound like you're angry. If anything, it kind of reads that like maybe you're just exhausted. I know I would be exhausted dealing with a sibling acting like this. Like, the only reason she was living with you in the first place was to have a free place to stay for college. But now that college experience isn't happening anymore, so it's like, okay, what are we doing? Are you getting a job? Are you going back to school? Like, please tell me what your plans are. You can't just stay here forever and expect me to be okay with it. Which, by the way, is completely normal. It is completely rational to be like, yeah, I don't think I can make this work for you anymore. So yeah, it's a good thing that she's moving out. She needs to like move on with her life and kind of face the music, because it kind of sounds like she doesn't want to talk to her mom and dad about this, and that's really annoying. But regardless, if I was in your shoes and after having someone live here for 5 years with me, I would make sure I get that in like a text message of some kind or in writing in some way, shape, or form that yeah, she's moving out and she's not coming back. Because holy crap, this could easily turn into some kind of like, I don't know, rent dispute or like a squatting situation. And just based on maybe a few of the stories I've read online, that is something you definitely don't want to deal with. That sounds like a nightmare, and that really would suck. My entitled aunt demands that I give up my PlayStation 4 to her spoiled, rotten child, saying that a man-child freeloader like me shouldn't be playing games and instead should be getting a real job. But after she said this, I decided to clap back with the ultimate insult, putting her in her place and completely devastating the family in the process. And I'm honestly not sure if I crossed the line somewhere and I just don't know what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, where the original poster in this story absolutely has the greatest comeback on planet Earth. Seriously, I've got a good one cooking for you for this first this one. It is a lot of fun. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and with that, let's get started. Okay, to start things off, I'm honestly stuck on this situation. I'm not sure if I should continue standing my ground or not, and this is all depending on whether or not I'm the jerk. So I really need the internet to come in clutch for this one. This situation began when I started to organize my room, and this includes the stuff I stored and have not used for years. I recovered my PlayStation 4, it was still in good condition, and during my time playing with it, I made sure with absolute certainty that I did not damage or compromise any of the device's components. My father gifted this to me, and it was the first console I ever received. It holds a sentimental place in my heart. I still live with my parents, but I pay for space and utilities, plus I contribute to expenses like the groceries or getting gas. And trust me, this detail will be very important later on. Anyways, I let my cousin take a few toys of mine, plus my gift on top of that, which is only after he went through it without my permission, but it was his birthday, so I mean, what could I do? My aunt also kind of let him go through my stuff, but said not to touch certain stuff because some of it might be like private or important to me. Well, this kid went further and found my room, which I do not know how he knew where my room was, and this is where he took my PlayStation 4 out of it and said to my aunt, "Mommy, I got a PlayStation 4," and he said it with an excited voice. Now, I really expected my aunt to try and like take it away from him and tell him not to touch stuff from somebody else's room, but she literally just looked happy and said, "Wow, now you can play it." But I then told my cousin immediately that I was not planning on gifting that to him, and I apologized for the misunderstanding to him and my aunt. And I gotta be honest, I was really holding back some of the things I really wanted to say, but I didn't want to deal with them. Well, my aunt then replied, "Well, you got him all excited, so you have to give it to him now." But then I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I'm really not ready to give it up. I could do other stuff with it, or perhaps even play with it, but I would need way more time to think about it." We then had an irritating exchange of asking and saying no, while my cousin was starting to cry in the corner during the party, and it was getting more intense each second that went by. Well, the true turning point was when my aunt looked at me frustratingly and said, "Well, a man-child freeloader like you should not be playing around with some consoles anymore and actually just get a job." And this is where I might be the jerk here, because I replied by saying, "Well, just because you can't control your child does not mean that you need to make it a problem for other people." She then said to me, "Are you accusing me of being a bad parent?" And she said more after this, just mostly like insults and other terrible things, but I let her finish. And then I hit her with, "Well, I know you're a bad wife," and I said it in a sarcastic voice. And when I said this, the whole room went silent. For context, she and her ex-husband split almost a year ago, and now the husband is already dating again, and according to my aunt, looking much happier, which was allegedly very unfair for her to see. My parents said to me after everybody left that I had crossed a line, and that I should have just given up the console since I was more than capable of getting a much better console, but I just don't think so. But now I'm kind of reflecting on the terrible thing I said to my aunt, and it really begs the question, am I the jerk in this situation? Do I really need to like make things right, or did I cross a line somewhere? Because right now I don't know what to do. Bro, I hate people like this. Because what you said is right on the money, dude. She can't control her kid and suddenly it's everybody else's fault. Instead of telling this kid, "No, you're not taking something out of someone's room. You can't have that." She looks at you and says, "Well, you're the one that got him all excited." But it's like, dude, no, he didn't. He wasn't the one who was like, "Oh my gosh, look at that. We can play that right now." That was literally the aunt in this scenario. The original poster was like, "Oh wait, yeah, no, you definitely cannot have that. That's like in my room and that's mine. You can't have it." So that first point is completely stupid. But also, dude, if you're gonna dish it, then you better be ready to take it, lady. Don't look at me and call me a man-child freeloader and not expect me to clap back in the same way the original poster did. Because holy crap, you hit her right where it hurts. Because she's doing like the classic scenario, right? She's not getting her way, so it's like, okay, time to attack. Which is classic narcissist tactic. Like, what's going on right now? So the fact that you shut her down and said, "Yeah, well, you're a crappy wife, and you're an even worse mom. See ya, loser." Like, in my opinion, this is absolutely necessary, and it's one of those like, oh, we can fight fire with fire. In my opinion, she deserved way worse than that, but maybe I'm just a bad person. You let me know in the comments. So no, you're not the jerk. This lady had it coming, dude. She came into your house and tried to steal your PlayStation, using her stupid, spoiled, rotten demon child as an excuse to take the PlayStation. So I'm really glad you stood your ground, and I think you could have been a lot meaner about this if you wanted to, and I don't think you have anything to be ashamed of in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for putting a passcode on my iPad after I walked in on my friend going through my private photos on my tablet? Because now she's offended and says that I'm treating her as untrustworthy. And at this point, I just don't know what to make of this. Here's basically how we got here. Okay, so I have a close friend who comes over to my place a few times a week to hang out, and I usually leave my iPad on the coffee table because I use it for drawing and reading and a bunch of other stuff. I never had a passcode on it because I live alone and I didn't think I needed one. Well, a few nights ago, I went into the kitchen to make some snacks, and when I came back into the living room, I saw my friend quickly swiping out of an app. Now, I didn't say anything at first, but later that night, I checked my recently opened applications, and it showed my photo gallery had been open for 10 minutes, and it was specifically scrolled back to photos from 3 years ago. And if I'm being completely honest, I felt incredibly violated. The next morning, I set a strong password and even enabled Face ID. When she came over again and tried to pick it up and look up a recipe, she realized that she was locked out. She then asked for my code, and I just told her, well, I'm not comfortable giving it out anymore after seeing she had been through my photos. After I said that, she got very offended and accused me of hiding something and treating her like she's untrustworthy. She says that friends shouldn't have secrets and that by locking her out, I'm damaging the foundation of our friendship over a bit of harmless curiosity. So am I the jerk here? Because I don't know what to make of this. Bro, your friend's an idiot. Dude, I have so many secrets from my friends, it's not even funny. First off, the way she's framing this makes it sound like, oh yeah, we're married and we're attached at the hip. But it's like, no, we're not, dude. I'm not married to you. We're not in a relationship outside of being good friends, which at this point is waning. Like, I've got secrets and things I don't want to show you, just like you've got secrets you don't want to show me. So her expecting like, oh my God, we're like best friends. That means there shouldn't be any secrets between us. Like, no, there's absolutely going to be secrets because that would be crazy otherwise. And it's so funny because she's literally admitting to going through your stuff, and she's even trying to justify it by being like, I was just curious, it's harmless. And yet when you rounded the corner with like some chips and some salsa, she was very quick to swipe out of it, almost like a kid who was caught doing something they know they shouldn't have been doing. And also, I gotta be completely honest, like, I would not feel totally comfortable going on someone else's iPad to look something up, and instead would probably just use my own phone to do that. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I have close friends who like I'm ride or die with, who I still would be very hesitant to like grab their iPad and be like, oh, let me look something up real quick. Like, no, dude, I'm not gonna use your iPad, I'm gonna use my own phone. Like, why would I use your stuff? So no, you're not the jerk. She's clearly looking at your stuff and trying to like snoop around in places she shouldn't. And it's only now that she's denied access to that she suddenly has a problem with it and is somehow trying desperately to spin this against you. But in reality, you haven't done a single thing wrong. Am I the jerk for blocking my ex-boyfriend immediately after we broke up? Because I really didn't want to risk getting back together with him again, just like I've done before. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm a 24-year-old female and I recently broke up with my boyfriend after a relationship that had been rocky for months. We argued constantly, went in circles about the same issues over and over again, and every breakup talk somehow turned into us getting back together 2 days later. But this time, I decided I was done for real after he held me aggressively, even though he apologized for it later. We had one final conversation where we both agreed it wasn't working, and he said he still wanted to stay close and maybe reconnect later. But the problem is, I know myself. If I keep seeing him and if he sends late night text messages, or if I see him posting like nothing happened, I'll get pulled back in emotionally again. So right after the breakup, I blocked him on calls, messages, and social media. But now he told our mutual friends that I'm cold, immature, and dramatic for blocking him for no reason when the breakup was mutual. Some of them say that I could have at least stayed civil and not acted like he passed away, but I don't hate him. I just want a clean break so I can heal and move on without getting dragged back into the same cycle over and over again. So am I the jerk here? Because honestly, this seemed like a really good solution to me. No, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your friends are like not at all in the situation you're in, so I wouldn't listen to them at all. And sure, the guy's gonna be upset about this, but also who cares? He's not your boyfriend anymore and you don't have to deal with him. And also, holy crap, anytime anyone gets physically aggressive with you in a relationship, that is like the biggest red flag to be like, okay, gotta go, this is over. So I think cutting him off and getting a clean break was really a smart move to make, and hopefully it gives you the space to move on away from this weirdo. Today, I messed up by being obsessed with writing my signature perfectly, resulting in my boyfriend thinking that I was casting a spell on him, which definitely threw me for a loop that I was absolutely not expecting. Here's what happened. Okay, to start off with a bit of background, I need to say that I'm quite a perfectionist, but only for stupid stuff like drawing my signature in the exact proportions I want. Well, because of that, whenever I'm bored, I practice and I don't stop until I draw it the way that I want. I can perfectly fill pages of this with my signature just simply out of obsession. I also like writing sometimes, but it's not really a hobby I'm passionate about, nor am I really good at, but at times it does feel good. But the situation I'm about to describe started a few weeks ago. I was in a boring class with a professor I hated, so I started writing down my signature. And this time I got it a little bit faster than usual, so it only took like half the sheet of paper for me to do it. I was happy about it, but it also meant I had nothing to do to distract myself from this horrible lesson. So I started remembering songs that I liked in my head. At one point, a specific song came to my head, sung by like a Spanish singer last Christmas. It had quite the medieval touch to it, and it also reminded me about witches' incantations when making potions. And since it was a love song, it also reminded me of my boyfriend. So I started writing down. I'm gonna translate it since it wasn't Spanish, but here's what it said. Dust in my bones, drops of my blood, I summon the witches of this coven. Let them conjure a link that tie you to me, and if I hurt you, may they come and end me. I then folded the sheet of paper and I save it inside of my notebook. And honestly, I didn't pay much attention to it after that. Well, fast forward to last night. I went out with some friends to celebrate the master's degree being over. I was going to stay at my friend's house because we were going to a town not so far away, and my boyfriend stayed home because he had to work. He had a bottle of some nice beer, so he drank a little bit. He was cleaning out the living room, and when he was going to put my notebook away, a small sheet of paper fell to the floor, and I'm sure you can imagine exactly what paper that was. And it's important to know that he was a little drunk at this point. So I came home this morning and we were cuddling all the way up until suddenly he tells me that we need to talk. Now I was a little confused and he said to me, "Hey, I found your spell." I then got more confused because I didn't know what in the world he was talking about. But then he started telling me he found a note and he thought I was into poetry and wanted to support me on that hobby. But then he saw multiple signatures. He searched on Google what it could mean, and it said that it was some kind of spell used in witchcraft to make someone love you. Then he proceeded to tell me that I didn't need spells because he loves me a lot and that he would support me if I wanted to practice witchcraft. And when he said this, I started laughing so hard, but I also felt a little bit embarrassed. I had forgotten about that sheet of paper and I had no idea what he was talking about. Then I just told him everything about how I write down my signature like an obsession and that I sometimes write stuff that comes to my mind and that I definitely do not cast spells. It was a funny moment, but I really was a little embarrassed because I don't really like showing anybody these things that I write or any of my compulsive obsessions. But it all worked out because he definitely took it the right way, which was honestly the best thing that could have come out of this. Oh man, I am so glad this worked out. Can you imagine if your boyfriend was like, "Wait, are you a witch? Are you casting spells on me? What's going on right now? What do you mean by dust in my bones and if I hurt you, they may end me? Don't summon any witches from the coven. What's happening right now?" Like, if that was his reaction, this could have been tragic. But instead, you're just practicing your signature, which, by the way, that's not weird. That's like the most harmless thing you could have been doing. There's a lot worse things that you could have, like a compulsion overdoing or like an obsession overdoing. So writing your signature is not nearly as weird as you think it might be, so I wouldn't feel embarrassed at all. But the biggest takeaway is that your boyfriend is really cool and he's supportive of you and he really cares about you. Because yeah, this could have been really bad, but thankfully it worked out pretty well. Am I the jerk for not letting my mother-in-law see our new house until she finally apologizes to me for the way she insulted me several months back? Because right now, this whole situation is becoming a lot bigger than any of us expected, and I really just don't know what to do. Here's basically what's been going on. Okay, so this has been building up for about 4 or 5 months now, but it finally came to a head. For context, my girlfriend and I have been dating for about 13 years, and my mother-in-law has always been very entitled. She's the type to argue with retail workers until they cry over a discount that she thinks she deserves. In fact, if an idea isn't hers, then she shuts it down immediately. Her husband avoids conflict at all costs, so no one challenges her except my girlfriend's sister, and those usually turn into huge fights. A few months ago, my girlfriend and I decided to buy our first home. We talked about it for months, and I brought it up multiple times with her parents. When we finally found a house we loved and decided to put an offer on, we called them just to share the news. Now, instead of being supportive, we were met with immediate hostility. It started with the usual questions of like, "Are you sure you're ready?" Which is completely fair, like I understand that one. But after I explained the planning we had done, her mom brought up a car that was repossessed from me 8 years ago. She then said to me, "I bet you thought buying that car was a good idea too." She then attacked my character and questioned how she could be okay with this, since apparently I don't tell her about my life. Now, just to make things clear, I'm not her child, and I'm not even very close with my own family. I don't think I owe my mother-in-law every detail of my past, especially after comments like that. I'm not perfect, but my life is far more more stable than it was 8 years ago. After that call, I asked for an apology, but she refused to do so. My girlfriend and her dad asked her multiple times over the next few weeks, and yet she still refused. Eventually, she said she'd only apologize if we went to dinner, but I asked if we could just do it over the phone so I could leave if things got nasty. I declined the dinner at first, but later I agreed. And then she changed her mind and said it had been too long. During all this time, my girlfriend and I fought a lot. She is very close with her parents and usually sees them every weekend. And from my side, honestly, that felt really hurtful. But I didn't want to tell her to stop seeing her family. Well, by this point, we had moved into our house. But it's here that I told my girlfriend her mom wasn't welcome in our home until she apologized. And although she didn't like it, she still agreed with me. Well, last week, her mom got some bad medical news. And now my girlfriend says it's unfair that I won't let her mom see the house since she's really sick and might never get the chance to do so. But from my perspective, all of this goes away if she simply apologizes. I feel like I'm the only one being asked to bridge the gap and make some kind of concessions, whereas her mom is not asked to do anything of the sort. And at this point, I really need to know, am I seriously the jerk here? Because I really just don't know what to do anymore. Okay, in my opinion, first off, I'm gonna sound like a massive jerk here, but I am absolutely on the original poster side. Because if I was in the original poster shoes, I would hold my ground forever. I would never give an inch to this woman, especially if this is the way she acts. Her entitlement and her dismissal of this argument and refusal to apologize is not okay. She has no right to bite back at people like that and expect everyone to just be okay with it. Just because other people are conditioned to that doesn't mean that you also have to be as well. So yeah, are you dragging this out a little bit longer than other people are comfortable with? Sure. But guess what? She started it. She's the one who offended you, so she should be the one to apologize. I know for a fact I would hold on to this forever. I would never let this go. Because this kind of person absolutely deserves a taste of humble pie, in my opinion. And also, let's be honest real quick. I seriously doubt this woman is sick, okay? I really think she's faking it. And based on her history, she probably made this up just to get you to apologize to her. This is a classic playbook from the manipulation manual, and I absolutely would not believe it for a second. You can send your condolences and be like, oh, I'm sorry you're sick, but guess what? You're still not coming over until you apologize. And sure, you might say oh, that's really petty. You gotta let bygones be bygones. But it's dude, she would never do the same for you. She's not willingly bridging the gap to be hey, I'm really sorry about what I said. I want to apologize. She's not making that effort at all. She's just saying, well, I'm sick and I'm dying. It's okay, lady, yeah, sure, and I'm the president. That's not gonna do anything for me. That's just gonna make me double down. So no, you're not the jerk, dude. I think you're absolutely making the right call, and I think it's better to stand your ground and make her apologize than to give in to some conveniently timed medical news that, honestly, in my opinion, is probably fake. Did I overreact by calling the cops on my neighbors after I saw the man of that couple literally blocking his wife with his car repeatedly in a way that was really dangerous and seemed very sketchy? Because now I'm worried that things are going to escalate from here and I just don't know what to do. Here's how it happened. Okay, so I was driving up my road and I noticed a woman on the side of the road with a van beside her. At first, I thought she was just exiting the vehicle, but every time she tried to move away from the car pulled in front of her, basically blocking her from leaving the area. If she turned to go the other way, the car pulled in front of her really fast. And it became pretty clear that the woman and the man driving the car were in some kind of argument, and he was clearly preventing her from going anywhere. I was scared that he might hit her with the car. So I drove further up the road, stopped at a safe distance. I then got out of my car and I yelled to the woman, asking if she was okay. She then yelled back that she was, and my intervention seemed to give her the opportunity to actually leave. And it's here that I saw her cross the road and walk away. I then got back in my car and I looked in the rearview mirror, and that's where I saw the van coming towards me. And I gotta be honest, I thought he was gonna rear-end me, but instead he just stopped and lingered behind my car. And this is when I started to get a little bit scared. I'm a small woman and I didn't know what he was going to do. So I locked my doors, I started driving away, but I definitely called 911. He drove away when he saw me starting to drive away, but then I pulled over again a bit further ahead so that I could focus on answering all the dispatcher's questions. As I was on the phone, the man in the van then pulled up right beside my car. I didn't engage with him at all and I followed the dispatcher's instructions to not roll down my window. And you know what? The entire time he just stared at me. He didn't look super angry or upset, and it almost seemed like he was trying to say, "You're really gonna do this?" I just don't understand the goal of following my car and trying to talk to me like that. It's just really stupid and making the situation worse for himself. I think he eventually figured out that I was on the phone with the cops and he eventually just turned around. Our street is a one-way and he drove towards the dead end. So I'm guessing he was like a neighbor or visiting someone who lives on our street. The cops arrived shortly after and they handled things from there. When I came back home, I drove past the van, which was parked in front of a house on my street. When I told my partner about it, he confirmed that he was definitely one of our neighbors. So now I feel deeply uncomfortable. I just really hope I didn't escalate things unnecessarily. But also, I was genuinely concerned for the woman, which I now know was his wife. I wasn't even sure I was going to get the cops involved until he finally came towards me. So honestly, did I overreact in this situation? Should I have just minded my own business and did my own thing? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first off, no, you're not overreacting because I live by the rule that if I feel unsafe or if there's something unsafe going on, or if there's something that I'm just perceiving as unsafe or dangerous or anything like that, then that to me is absolutely enough grounds for me to call the cops and have them figure it out. You very well could have saved that woman's life. You don't know exactly what was going on. All you notice is that this one guy was blocking this lady with his car repeatedly, refusing to let her move, and that is scary. And I don't care who you are, that is messed up and that's not okay. Even in some kind of universe, he was joking around. You don't joke about that. That's really dangerous. So I think you calling the cops was the right move. But I will say that if you are going to get involved in those kind of scenarios, you need to be prepared for people going and trying to talk to you, or confronting you in some way, or trying to intimidate you, which is exactly what this scumbag does. That's the tactic of a small, angry little man who's I can't believe you caught me being mean to my wife. And trust me, the word mean is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this video, let me tell you, because if anything, he's probably mistreating her, and that's horrifying. So with that in mind, you definitely didn't overreact, and I think you did the right thing. My entitled ex tried to use the legal system against me by literally lying and trying to ruin my career. So I pulled the wild Uno reverse card out of my pocket and used it all against him, as I took him to court and exposed him for the narcissist that he truly was, resulting in him losing his job, losing his credibility, and eventually losing all of his money, as he now lives with his mom and has literally no prospects in his life. And I honestly couldn't be more satisfied because this guy really deserved it. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where you can see that karma is a cruel mistress and she loves to strike exactly at the right time. Because my god, the revenge the original poster gets in this story is delicious. It is absolutely wonderful, so strap in for this one. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and let's get started. Okay, I want to say that in my mind, this isn't really petty, but it is definitely revenge. To put it bluntly, I was in a relationship with a narcissist, not in the way we casually throw the word around, but a true personality disorder. I didn't know this at first because the idealization phase is so convincing, but once that phase ended, the relationship became challenging. There were lies, volatility, suspected infidelity, so eventually I just ended it. Well, over 2 weeks, he begged and pleaded for a second chance. There were apology cards left on my car, long texts about learning his lesson, tearful voicemails, etc. But eventually I was convinced and I did end up giving him a second chance. Now, I've got to say, things were better at first, but eventually it was right back to the same issues. So I gave him an ultimatum, including personal therapy and access to his phone right there on the spot. He said yes to everything until I finally got to the phone. So of course my spider senses started tingling because I found things in his phone before that were suspicious but explained away. Eventually he gave me his phone, after trying to covertly delete conversations, and I just left him in my apartment so I could go through every single pixel. And you know what? I found everything. I went back to the beginning of our relationship and I saw text messages, direct messages, Snapchats, dating apps that proved he definitely had been cheating the entire time, including with one of his patients as he works as a physical therapist. When I returned home to confront him, he literally exploded and actually grabbed me and put his arm around my neck to get the phone back. Now, I wasn't hurt, but I definitely was rattled. Eventually, I got him out of the house and I knew for a fact I would never talk to him again or see him again. Well, that would be the case until I got a subpoena ordering me to a protective order hearing. This psycho really told the judge that I stole his phone and attacked him when he was the one who attacked me. But guess what? It worked. He literally got the protective order. Then he took out an assault charge against me, which by the way is a conviction that would have ended my career, which was very lucrative and hard earned. So you know what? I fought back. Leading up to this, I had been secretly recording our fights to make sense of everything because he was an expert gaslighter. I had taken pictures of the aftermath of the fight over his phone, and I had also sent screenshots of the conversation with his patients from his phone over to mine. So I made a binder of evidence and took out 13 charges, including 2 felonies. I got a temporary restraining order and a hearing to make it all permanent. permanent. And I even send the screenshots of his conversations with his patient over to his licensing board and his job. We had a long legal battle. He was investigated by his board and lost his license. Then he lost his job. And when he and his lawyer realized I had recordings showing who the screaming, verbally awful antagonist really was, he paid the over $10,000 attorney fees for the both of us, while also dropping the charges and the protective orders. But then after that, I took him to civil court for $12,500 for property damage, and yeah, you better believe I won. He sent threatening text messages because of that, so I took out an additional charge, and he was convicted again. And it was here that I was given a 2-year protective order. So now he's jobless, he's broke, he lives with his mom, and is on probation. And honestly, I can't think of a better person for this to happen to. Dude, I love this story so much. You got this guy exactly where it counts. You took him to court and you exposed him, and I love the fact that he lost. Like, this is the kind of stuff you like to see. Like, this is very cathartic. So good for you. I'm super glad this worked out, and I'm glad your ex got exactly what he deserved. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My girlfriend wants to move in with me, but I literally cannot stand her dog. And at this point, I don't know how to break it to her that I don't want her dog in her house, and I really just don't know what to do. Here's some context just to try and illustrate the situation. Okay, so my girlfriend and I have been together long distance for about 2 years now. I'm finishing up school and about to move out and find a place on my own, and hopefully she can move in too. I don't mind the idea of living with her, however, but I simply cannot stand her dog. Her dog is a 7-year-old Pomsky. The thing is literally a rat, and she is given that dog everything. She'll give it treats whenever and just letting it walk all over her, and the dog has trained her to give her treats whenever she yells or barks. It will literally not stop screaming for hours. It knows that it will get its way and get all these stupid treats. The dog also has developed spite and will quite literally take a crap or pee in the house whenever you leave it alone and not give it attention. For example, I woke up and fed the dog immediately, and while it was eating, I went to the bathroom real quick, and I come back not even 30 seconds later where it literally goes to the bathroom on the ground with the food still in the bowl. So I quickly took it out right after and went back into the house. Then I went back to the bathroom to brush my teeth, and guess what? There was more dog urine on the ground, and it starts yelling at me. It would not be quiet until it got more treats. My girlfriend will give the dog handfuls of Cheerios whenever she wants it to be quiet, but also kenneling the dog will only make it louder. Don't get me wrong, the dog is sweet, but I cannot do the screaming and the dog peeing in the house every day. So how can I talk to her about this? Because honestly, I don't want to live with her dog, let alone visit for a few days at a time. What should I do? Honestly, in my opinion, it definitely sounds like you guys are not ready to live together. This sounds like it would be a nightmare waiting to happen, and I know for a fact I would go crazy. So if I was in your shoes, I would definitely address this as soon as possible, because this would drive me crazy within a week. Imagine living with that all the time, because if your girlfriend's giving into whatever the dog wants, you better believe you're going to do the same just to try and keep the peace, which is a nightmare waiting to happen. Today, I found out that my boyfriend is once again cheating on me, and now I'm trying to figure out what to do because I can't physically move out yet until I pay off a loan I'm currently working through, as this really has kind of put me in a spot where I have to live with him while also figuring my life out, and at this point, I don't know how to do that. Here's what's going on. Okay, to put it bluntly, I found out last year that my husband was cheating. I found messages on Discord from a girl he was playing a game with, which is ironically the one we had met on, and I just decided to give him another chance. Since last year, I had a feeling that he didn't quit playing the game, and more recently that he didn't actually cut her off like I thought he did. And guess what? I was completely right. I haven't found 100% proof on this, but just from following her, and yeah, I know I'm kind of stalking her online, as well as following his activity, as well as the way whenever I move at night, he jumps around and goes to grab his phone, I think it is pretty obvious that something is still going on. But unfortunately, I'm not in a spot where I can leave him yet. I have a loan to pay off, and once it's paid off, I can finally afford to do so, but until then, I'm kind of stuck. So how do I act like everything's fine? Unless I outright catch him, he will never admit to me that he's cheating, and I'm fairly certain he would delete everything off his phone before giving it to me. Either way, I can't really do anything about this until I have my loan paid off. But how do I sleep next to him acting like everything's fine? How do I look at him? How do I sleep with him? He absolutely disgusts me, and I always knew I could do better, but love and all that garbage kind of clouded my judgment. And I just want to say, I'm not going to be replying to anyone who says, oh, just leave him, because I literally cannot. If I move in with parents, I'll lose lose my job, and I have to take a huge pay cut, which will completely screw me over. I have a good job. I just consolidated debt and put it on a fast track to be paid off. I just need to be able to get through the next year and a half. When I caught him last time, I said if I caught him again, I would assume that we were in an open relationship and I would find my own side piece, but I just am not like him. I can't just simply do that. What should I do? Okay, if moving's off the table and going in with family's off the table, then dude, I would live there as little as possible. I would work a side job on the weekends, I would take extra hours at work, I would do whatever was possible to like make money, pay off my debt as soon as possible, and get out of there as soon as I possibly could. Like that is honestly what I would do, and if he has any question about it, I would just be like, yeah, I'm just saving up, I'm trying to pay off my loan. Also, you don't owe him anything physically, if you know what I mean. Like you don't have to do anything with him, you really don't. So hopefully that part of this can be taken off the table almost immediately. But when it comes to like being around him, honestly, if I was in this kind of scenario, I would just tough it out as much as I can, spend as little time at home as I possibly can, and just maximize my time into making money. Because it seems like that might be the only way out of this, and that really sucks, and I really hope you're able to find a solution sooner than later. Am I the jerk for asking my husband to tell his mother that she is no longer allowed in our house unsupervised after she literally stole from us the last time we were here? Here's what's currently going on, and yes, it is as crazy as it sounds. Okay, so my mother-in-law has a long history of crossing boundaries in my home. Some examples include opening mail and packages when I'm not there, rearranging my garage without asking, and moving around my makeup, my skincare, and my kitchen items while she's visiting. She usually does these things when I'm not home too, by the way. And for context, this is not something my own parents do, and we've never set an expectation that family members can just do whatever they want in our house. Well, last Christmas, my husband gave her money to take our 2 young sons shopping so that they could pick out some gifts for us. She helped my youngest son choose a dish drying rack and drying mat for me, so while she was involved in picking it out, it was paid for with my husband's money and then given to me as a gift for my son. And just for comparison, the actual gift she personally gave me was an old bag of potpourri and chapstick. Recently, she was at our house watching the kids while I was at work and my husband was out. When I got home, I noticed things in the pantry had been moved around. Then I realized the dish drying rack and mat was gone. I had seen it earlier that day, so I knew it had been there. I asked my kids and my husband if they moved it, and no one knew anything about it. And at that point, I strongly suspected my mother-in-law because she has taken gifts back from people before. My husband then texted her and asked her, hey, did you take it? And she admitted, yes, I did. You guys don't use it enough. And so because of that, she just took it with her. And I gotta be honest, I was shocked and angry. To me, this is stealing something from my house because she decided I didn't deserve to keep my own property. My husband thinks I should just let it go and sweep it under the rug, but I told him this is a serious boundary issue, and I seriously don't trust her in our home anymore. I then requested that she no longer be alone in our home unsupervised, but my husband thinks that what she did wasn't stealing, and that apparently I'm making a big deal over nothing. So seriously, I feel like I'm going crazy. Am I really the jerk here? Because I don't know what else to do here. Okay, no, you are not the jerk, and your husband is a spineless coward. Dude, she stole your property. I don't care what it is. She took it away because she's like, oh, you don't use it enough, so you don't deserve it. But it's like, bro, if I want to staple that drying rack to my roof, then guess what? I can do that because it's mine. I could do whatever I want with it. But just because you think, oh, you don't use it enough, you don't deserve it, like that doesn't give you the right to take it from my home. Like, what are you doing? Get out of my house, bro. Like, what's happening right now? So if this was me, dude, she is never welcome back. She can take a hike and figure her life out, but she's never coming back to my place. In fact, not only would she never be allowed back, but I would make a point of being like, you got to bring back my property today. I don't care what you think about whether I use something enough. This literally is not the point. You stole my property. You can either bring it back or I'm going to make this into a bigger deal, because this kind of behavior needs to stop. And the only way to like make that happen, in my opinion, is by calling them out exactly when it happens and not just brush it under the rug like your husband's trying to do. My deadbeat mom walked out on me and my siblings, but now after all these years, she's finally demanding to move back in, saying that as our mom, she deserves to live with us. But now we're seriously considering getting the police involved because we do not want that woman in our house. And at this point, we don't really know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my mom basically is wanting to move back in with me and my siblings. I'll try to keep it short, but basically she and my stepdad got divorced in November of 2020 because he caught her texting another guy. It was really messy to say the least, and he ended up leaving that same night, and we didn't hear from him for like a few months, which I really don't blame him for since he was going through a lot. Like, my mom literally betrayed him, and he needed some time to process things, but he is still very much supportive and takes care of us kids. Now, I say stepdad just for the story, but I do take him as my true dad. My biological dad wasn't in the picture much at all. Meanwhile, my stepdad took me in as his own when I was a baby, so he's really my dad. And this is really relevant because I feel like some people might think I don't have a close relationship with him, but I really do. He is the best and I love him, and he treats me like his own. Well, after that, she left and moved in with another guy, and has left us 4 siblings at home without any parental supervision, and has been like that pretty much ever since. She was really horrible to us kids since she moved in with the guy, and treated us like we were a burden, sometimes acting like we didn't exist while she still played mommy to her younger kids. So me and my older sibling had to step up and take care of all of us. When she left, all she said was, "There's more than enough for you to rely on each other," and also claiming that we'll understand it when we're older and have kids of our own. But personally, I wouldn't abandon my kids for a guy that's gonna mistreat me, but hey, that's just me, I guess. She would come back sometimes, but it was only for like a day or two to come and get clothing, or she would only come back if they got into a fight, and then she would leave right back for him, who lives like 3 or 4 hours away. We then got into a huge argument a few months ago when she and this deadbeat guy broke up, and he kicked her out for like the billionth time, and she tried to guilt trip us by saying kids need their moms and all that other crap. But I told her something along the lines of, well, when did you care about this 5 years ago when you left us claiming we would understand when we were older? We're older now and we still don't understand how a woman can do that to her kids. After that, she got mad, and that's where the argument really started. She said some not so nice things about me and my siblings that I won't repeat here, but just know it's some things that a mother should really never say to her kids. It ended with her going and staying at our grandparents' house, and then texting my older sibling and I and guilt tripping us, and playing the victim so much that my grandparents told us to just straight up block her. But hey, spoiler alert, she went right back to him a few days later. Well, after this fiasco, my older sibling took her to court for custody of our younger siblings and the house, and just straight up told her that if she didn't hand over the kids or the house in their name peacefully, then they would out her in court and tell them exactly what she's been doing. And sure, blackmail isn't right, I know, but guess what? It definitely worked. My mom gave the house and the kids to my older sibling and claimed to be an unfit parent, and that was it. But now she and the guy broke up, and they are apparently done for good, as he's basically thrown out all of her things. She also got a new number and called my older sibling asking if she could have her room back in the house, as she claimed she would never leave us again. But we've already turned her room into the youngest room, and she likes her space, so obviously we told her no. But this is when she started playing the victim card and tried turning it around on us, saying that we're mean and that she's done everything for us kids, and that our dad apparently turned us against her. But we told her that our dad doesn't even talk about her anymore unless we bring her up in the first place, and then she started getting mad saying, oh, we're such ungrateful brats. And then again, she reiterated that we should be thanking her for even giving us the house and not throwing us out like she wanted to do. She then proceeded to demand that we let her move in, and that she wasn't taking no for an answer, that she was the one that raised us, and that she is still the mom and has final say. But we straight up told her that if she tries anything, we would get the police involved. But so far, that hasn't really stopped her. She's going to try and move in sometime today or tomorrow, because all she said was, well, we'll talk about this in person. See you soon, love you. And honestly, I don't even know what to do about this if she does try something. I really hope she doesn't go through with it so we don't have to like get the police involved, but so far, that really looks like exactly where it's going, and honestly, I don't know what to do about this. Okay, this is some heavy stuff. Like, first off, I am so sorry to the original poster and their family. Seriously, your mom sucks. She is a terrible parent. She's stepping in here trying to be like, oh yeah, I've done everything for you. And yet she's the one that literally walked out on the entire family. She cheated on your dad, and then she's like, wow, you need to let me move back in. No, I haven't been involved for a few years. What's the big deal? Like, you guys aren't being ungrateful brats. You're literally just looking out for each other. You're trying to keep the peace and like have some kind of stability for your younger siblings. So her coming in and disrupting that is so unacceptable. So yeah, hopefully she doesn't try to move in, and hopefully you get the police involved. And obviously if you haven't like changed the locks already and put up a camera, I would definitely do that as soon as possible, because her behavior is weird and I can definitely see her trying something when you're least expecting it. Am I the jerk for not putting down some money to help pay for a coworker's birthday gift, as I really dislike this coworker and I want nothing to do with them? Here's what happened. Okay, so there's a guy I will call Kevin at work that I really dislike. I should clarify that I run IT at a help desk, desk and I'm extremely protective of my people. Meanwhile, Kevin is not in the IT department, but works on the same floor as us. He's also a bully, but the kind who thinks being sarcastic isn't bullying. For example, one of my team members had to do a presentation on some new security features, and Kevin kept interrupting him and snorting as if my guy didn't know what he was doing. But after the third time of this happening, I turned to Kevin and I said to him, okay, well, it seems like you know more about this software than my guy does, so maybe you should take over the presentation. And when I said that, he backed down and was quiet after that. I remember my team lead, who had sat in on the meeting, kind of like resignedly shook his head, and I just shrugged and let my guy continue. Another time, one of my guys went to check Kevin's computer, and I could hear Kevin raising his voice at him. I went to his office, and without knocking, I walked in, and I asked what seems to be the problem. Well, it turned out in trying to help Kevin, my guy had accidentally deleted an important document Kevin had been working on for quite some time. I stood silently just staring at Kevin for a few seconds, and I know for a fact how it made him feel really uncomfortable. My friends and students always tell me that I have a policeman's stare when I'm not in the mood for nonsense. I then took over, found the temporary copy, and I restored the document. When leaving, I turned and I smiled at him and I said, see how easy that was? And we didn't need to shout in the process. Amazing, right? He then got the message because he never did that ever again. Now, I should mention, I don't create tension with Kevin, and I'm always very polite and professional to him when he needs something. I'm just not his water cooler buddy, and I don't want to be. Now, on to the issue at hand. One of the girls on my team told me that Kevin's birthday was coming up, and they asked me if I wanted to contribute to the pot to get him a gift. But yeah, as you can imagine, I said no. When she asked why, I just bowed my head and lifted my eyebrows, and I stared at her like, are you serious? Really? Well, when I did that, she laughed and said the team figured I wouldn't, as they knew I don't really like Kevin. But they sent her anyways to ask just in case. Now, I remember I said, you all obviously have too much time on your hands, to which she laughed at that and then she left. She then later brought by the birthday card and asked me, okay, at least sign it, to which I went ahead and just did that. Well, later, my team lead found out and told me it wouldn't have hurt to put like $5 in as a gift. I then told him that I'm sorry, but I am not that person who smiles at people that they dislike and then rewards them later on. When I said this, he just shook his head, and I remember that he said, look, you just gotta learn to play the game. Now, I think I play the game very well because I started on a phone answering help calls, and now I run the help desk, and I have a great relationship with everyone all the way up to the CEO, who insists on me calling him by his first name, but I always stay professional and refer to his last name, and this always makes him laugh. So I'm literally on good, if not fantastic terms with everybody except for Kevin. My problem is I just can't find it in me to reward bullies and terrible people and just stand by doing nothing and smiling as if nothing's wrong. So am I really the jerk here? Like, am I in the wrong for not giving money for this idiot? Because I really just don't know if I made a mistake or not. No, you're not the jerk. Screw Kevin. We hate Kevin in this house. People like Kevin are the reason why people like the rest of us, who are all reasonable people and not the jerk, literally have to take medicine at the end of a workday because we're so sick of Kevin. Kevin makes our life miserable. We hate dealing with him. So no, you're not obligated to help pay for his birthday gift. And I think you signing the birthday card at least was the bare minimum that should have been expected. An entitled jerk demands that a woman gets out of a seat he wants on a public bus, as he kept screaming that he deserved this seat more than anybody else, and that he was not going to move until she got out of the way. And honestly, this is probably the most cringe-worthy experience I've ever had in my entire life. And I really hope I don't deal with this guy ever again. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, where you get to experience the raw, unfiltered feeling of secondhand embarrassment. And this first story is just oozing with this stuff, dude. It is so weird, and honestly, I think you're gonna love this one. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and click the bell to turn on notifications. You don't want to miss a video, man. So please, get comfortable, grab some snacks, get a drink, and let's get started with our first story. Okay, so I live in London, England. This happened yesterday, and my god, did things get weird really fast. A man got on the bus ahead of us, and once we tapped in our cards, we couldn't move past him because the entitled man of the story was arguing with a young lady on the first passenger seat at the front of the bus. Now, it's important to note that this seat is theoretically for 2 people, but with the way that it's set up, it's just one big seat, narrow enough for maybe 2 prepubescent children, but not like 2 fully grown average-sized adults. And this is where literally the entire argument started. He literally didn't let us move past, and I thought at first he was arguing because he was elderly and needed a seat, but no, there were like literally 10 free seats beyond him, so my friend and I just sat down. Now, I would say that I was earwigging the conversation, but he was honestly shouting so loud that I couldn't miss what he was shouting. He then shouted, move out of the way, I want to sit. But then a couple of us tried to point out that there were other seats available, to which he shouted, I want to sit here at the front. I want to see where I'm going. So this wasn't a lack of a seat or the lack of a window seat. It was because this poor woman was sitting in the one seat he wanted, and he obviously felt that she should move for him. Well, she did move aside a little bit so he could squeeze on beside her, but he refused to do that and kept arguing with her, repeating that he still wanted to sit there to see where he was going, and he said it over and over, the entire time looming over this poor woman. Now, the bus driver eventually got fed up with him and told him to go sit down. Then a couple of us spoke up and pointed out that other seats were available and that he wasn't entitled to a preferred seat. Well, eventually he did, sitting opposite this lady, right behind the driver's cab, which was another unoccupied two-person seat. Then suddenly he changed the topic of conversation to his opinion on the Prime Minister, and he did this at the top of his lungs, still looking at the woman who was, by the way, standing her ground, but looking ahead and refusing to engage. And during this conversation that nobody was having with him, he was interspersing his insistence that, yeah, I want that seat really bad, just so he could see where he's going. Now, the poor woman who was on the other side of this argument eventually got off one stop later, and I hope it was because it's where she was getting off anyways, and not because of this idiot. He then waited until she was off and the bus was moving to eventually move to his preferred seat, and then he got off one stop later. Now, it's also worth noting that we had seen him before getting off the bus, and also the day before yelling at cyclists to get off the pavement and go onto the road. So it seems like this guy really enjoys making his demands known to pretty much anybody who will listen. Dude, I will never understand anybody who acts like this in public, especially over public seating on a bus, dude. What are we doing? Your life has got to be so miserable to be like, I want to sit there. I want to see where we're going. Get out of my seat. And it's like, dude, no, if they sit down, that's their seat. They literally have priority over it because their butt hit it first. So please, if you're someone out there who's even done this even one time, please don't be that person. Be a better person and not a piece of garbage like this guy in the story, because this is humiliating for everybody involved, whether you're the person getting yelled at or you're experiencing the secondhand embarrassment on the side like the original poster. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My boyfriend has started calling me fat and making fun of my weight after I got depressed and gained a few pounds. And now I'm honestly kind of devastated by this and I don't know what to make of it. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so my boyfriend of 2 years has been calling me fat multiple times a day. And yes, we do live together. I've always held myself to high standards and I've wanted to look my best. And in the past 6 months, I've noticed I've really struggled with my mental health. And because of that, I've gained a noticeable amount of weight. We're talking like maybe about 15 pounds. For reference, I'm about 5'9" and I weigh 150 pounds. I talk about how I've gained weight and I'm not happy with it, but I still want to be appreciated and loved while I figure it out. But instead, he says things like, oh, I make too much money to have a fat girlfriend. You're the fattest you've ever been. Yeah, she's pretty and you're just fat. He also calls me a piggy or fat throughout the day if I'm doing something that he's upset with or if I'm eating. It's gotten to a point where I feel like he knows the comments will hurt me more than anything else, and he will say it until I start to cry. And even when I'm crying, he won't understand or even care. And this has been multiple weeks at this point. I'm honestly so drained and I'm sad. I'm not happy with myself and I don't understand why he's so cruel. I want to be alone all the time and it's not fun to hang out with him anymore. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Okay, bro, your boyfriend sucks. This is not a good person. Anyone, and I mean anybody who's going around talking about you like that is just not a good person. Because clearly this is upsetting you. Like, this is not a good thing for you. And you're obviously depressed and you're going through it. And the fact that he's like, I don't know, rubbing salt in the wound is really alarming. And that is something I would not ignore. So yeah, your boyfriend sounds like a giant walking red flag. And I would definitely not ignore that anytime soon. Because for the record, if I was in your shoes, I would definitely dump him over this. An entitled jerk literally ruined my laundry right before it was done drying. So I decided to get some petty revenge by returning the favor and ruining theirs, making them think twice about messing with people's laundry in the future. Here's how I did it. Okay, so this happened a few years ago when I was living in the dorms at college. If you've ever done laundry in a dorm, then you already know. It's basically a gladiator arena with lint. The dryers were not cheap, so I always tried to be strategic and economical. I would set a timer, I'd show up early, just so I could get my clothes out right when it finished. Well, Well, one day I came back a few minutes before my cycle was done with my bag of snack-sized Doritos, feeling very responsible, only to find my clothing had been pulled out early and dumped onto a table. And yeah, this is annoying already, but trust me, it gets way better. Because guess what? The table was covered in a puddle of soda. So now my almost dry clothes were damp, sticky, and smelled like Pepsi. And let me tell you something, I was furious. Not mildly inconvenienced furious, more like, oh, I paid for that dryer time and now I have to rewash everything furious. Now, I'm not a destructive person, but I do believe in educational pettiness. I then noticed the culprit's clothes were still in the dryer. So I added a full bag of snack-sized Dorito into the laundry load. I shut the door and I set it to high heat and let the cycle continue. When that dryer finished, I just so happened to be hanging out in the lounge outside the laundry area. And my God, a girl came out looking angry with a laundry basket full of orange-streaked Dorito-smelling clothing. Now, was it mature? No. Did it restore balance to the universe? Also no. But did it make me feel better in that exact moment? Absolutely. So the moral of the story is don't touch other people's laundry, or you might just end up smelling like a walking snack aisle. Okay, I love this kind of pettiness. I live for it. Absolutely am a fan of this. It's not that hard to just wait your turn, dude. You don't take someone else's clothing out and be like, it's close enough. This is dry enough. I'll just put my stuff in there. And then land it on a puddle of soda. Like, no, dude, that's unacceptable. That is inappropriate. So the fact that there's some good old-fashioned karma coming along and like, I don't know, getting back at the person who screwed you over, like, dude, that's delicious and I'm all in favor of that. My boyfriend's parents, after a family trip, called me selfish, all because I was really tired on the last day. And now I'm starting to rethink this relationship because I've done so much for them, especially over the 4 years I've been dating their son. And now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I've been with my boyfriend for about 4 years. And along with his parents, we recently took a 12-day trip to Japan together that his parents paid for. I've spent every weekend at their house. I've had holidays with them. I helped take care of his elderly grandpa for months. I invited his mom to workout classes with me and watch movies with them, and have always been kind, respectful, and appreciative. And they've also been nothing but kind to me. On the trip itself, I went along with whatever the family wanted to do. I had a list of things that I wanted to do, but I managed my expectations early on because I realized I'm on a group trip, and it's not super realistic to do everything I want. I was polite, grateful, participated, and I didn't complain. But by the end of the trip, I was motion sick at times and physically drained from all the walking and the traveling. There were a couple of days where I got quieter and had more like, I don't know, low energy, but I still talked and had conversations with everybody, and I just spent more time self-managing my emotions and just being a little more to myself. One of the days, while everyone was taking pictures of viewpoints at the temple, I sat down off to the side to rest because I was really tired and just not feeling great. Well, after that, my boyfriend's dad became completely withdrawn from me for like 2 days. He ignored me when I said hello, refused to look at me or even sit by me when there was an empty seat next to me and everyone else was sitting down. He excluded me at meals and was warm to literally everybody else. His mom was nicer to my face, but later agreed with him privately. The day after the trip, they told my boyfriend they thought I was selfish, only happy when I got to do things I wanted, and that I was moody on and off. And this honestly shocked me because I spent 11 out of the 12 days doing what they wanted. And even during the trip, I was still trying to be respectful and kind, even thanking them multiple times on my off days for bringing me on the trip despite feeling bad. What hurts the most is how quickly they seem to turn on me after knowing me for years, and after everything I've done to build a relationship with them. I understand that maybe I wasn't my best bubbly self every second of the trip, but I feel like I was judged harshly and treated horribly by his dad for being tired and human. So what would you do in this situation? I feel like the power dynamic of my boyfriend's dad, who paid for the trip, punching down on me as a guest, who's also the youngest in the group, was really unforgivable. What should I do? Okay, someone in the comments section pretty much said exactly what I was gonna say, but my dude, group trips always turn out to be either really good for people or really bad. And spending 2 weeks with people who are not family is only gonna result in someone finally snapping sooner than later. And it seems like your dad just decided, oh yeah, she's being a jerk, so I'm gonna say that you're selfish. When in reality, you're just tired, you're exhausted. You spent 2 weeks in Japan, dude, you're walking all over the place. You're literally just beat down to your socks, bro. It's not that serious. And it's not that deep. Like, Like, you're not being selfish, like, you're just tired. And it really does seem like, yeah, they've kind of like bailed on everything they've ever known about you, all over a trip to Japan for 2 weeks. You know, the place that's notorious for, I don't know, having to walk everywhere. And if you're not used to that, then it's gonna be a struggle. So in my opinion, I think it might be time for your boyfriend to step up and defend you and be like, no, it's not like that. She was just tired. Or at least have something good to say about you to be like, no, I stand by my girlfriend, like I care about her. She's not selfish, she's like really a kind person. And then remind him of all the things that you've done for them. Because this is some really toxic behavior and you definitely do not deserve it. My professor said that any source is valid as long as I cite it properly. So I decided to use him as a source and I cited him in my next paper, which definitely caused some problems for him as he realized that I was in the right. Here's what happened. Okay, so this was my junior year in my research methods class, and for the sake of the story, I'll call my professor Dr. K. Now, Dr. K had this thing where he would make bold claims during lectures without citing anything, and then get annoyed if students push back on it. Classic, oh, I have a PhD, so my word is the source kind of energy. At some point, he made a sweeping statement about consumer behavior that directly contradicted something I had read in 2 separate peer-reviewed papers. So I raised my hand and mentioned this, and he said, and I quote, "In this class, any source is valid as long as you cite it correctly. The quality of your argument is what really matters." So I thought to myself, okay, let's do this. I then wrote my next paper arguing the opposite of his claim. The primary source for the counter-argument was a transcript that I had made of his own lecture from 3 weeks earlier, where he had said something that, read carefully, actually undermined his newer position. I cited it with his last name, his first initial, the class lecture, the course number, the university name, and the date. And I formatted it exactly according to the citation guide he gave us on day 1. He eventually handed back the papers with written comments, and mine said, "Oh, interesting argument, strong structure." And then at the bottom, he said, "This citation is not acceptable. Please see me." So I went to see him, and I brought the citation guide with me. I showed him the format, and I also showed him his own quote. I then asked him which part of the citation requirements had I failed to meet. There was a long pause, but then he changed my grade from a B+ to an A-. And then he told me that the citation was technically valid, but in poor taste. Well, I've never felt more seen by a grade in my life because this guy deserved to get shut down, and I'm glad I got the adjustment. Okay, I love this so much because, dude, what kind of professor is this? Seriously, this is obnoxious. I would hate dealing with this. You're literally just trying to learn the correct stuff for your major, whatever it is, and this guy's really standing up there acting like, oh, I'm God, everything I say is right. So I love the way the original poster got back at them. I love that they shut them down using his own, like, I don't know, system against him, and essentially put him in a place in a way he definitely was not expecting. An entitled customer at a credit union I work at literally provided the worst experience I've ever had in my life. And it's honestly astonishing how entitled some people can be because this guy was really bad. Here's what happened. Okay, first off, I want to say that it really seems like people forgot how to behave civilly after COVID. But that idea is nothing like this person that I just needed to vent about. If you walk into a bank or a credit union, they may ask you to remove your hat or sunglasses so they can verify you. And that's what I did with someone on the drive-thru. He asked why he needs to do that, and I explained. And he only gave me like a second with his hat and sunglasses off for me to verify his IDs the same as the person sitting in the car. He literally just put it right back on after like not any time at all. So it's like, okay, whatever. Some people just get upset of the hat rule. But then he started going off on me by being like, oh, do you need a blood sample and a birth certificate while you're at it? Or something along those lines. Now, I just want to get him out of here really quickly. So I do the transaction that he asked me to do. And when I try to explain I need a signature on the copy of the receipt that I'm going to send out, he literally starts cursing at me. I send the receipt out, I get it back, I give him his information back, but this honestly just takes the cake afterwards. Like the true entitlement of this interaction. After he gets everything, like in a fit of rage, he takes the tube for the drive-thru and throws it into the pavement. A good Samaritan eventually brought it back before any of us had to go out to get it, and I'm forever grateful for that person, but the one that I helped out didn't care. He literally just drove off. Like the entitlement he must have had to treat me like that, and treat someone else's property like that too. Imagine if the tube was glass instead of plastic. Like it really could have broken. And this literally all comes back to the fact that I asked him to remove his hat. Like people seem to not know how to behave post-COVID at all. But this really does take the cake in terms of rudeness because this was so over the top. Dude, people really do suck. Like when you get a bad customer or like a bad client of some kind, it really shows. Like some people are mildly rude, but this is taking it to a whole nother level. Holy crap. Imagine having a life so miserable that you literally take the tube thing out of like the drive-thru and throwing it on the ground, all because someone tried to verify you are who you say you are. Like that is weird. I would be thanking the people holding my money and being like, yeah, thank you so much for making sure I was who I say I am. Like I don't want people taking my money. Like I'm glad they're trying to verify it. So please, if you're like this guy, then don't be like this guy. It's embarrassing, it's really rude, and there's just no need for it. Am I the jerk for confronting my neighbor about his son tearing up my lawn constantly with his dirt bikes, only for him to then pull the card of him saying, "Oh, I'm a cop and this is fine," because this whole situation has me in a tailspin and I just don't know what to make of it. Here's basically how we got here. Okay, for starters, I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood where people mostly just keep to themselves. And for the past year, I've been fixing up my lawn after it was in rough shape when I moved in. A couple of months ago, my neighbor's teenage son, who's like maybe 16 years old, started riding dirt bikes around the street. And at first it was just noise, so who cares? But then I started noticing tire tracks cutting across my yard. Eventually, I caught them doing it on purpose, using my lawn as a shortcut while turning. Now, I went to their dad calmly and explained the damage, and he just said to me, "Relax, I'm a cop, I know how this works." And that's the part that really gets me. Like, what does that even have to do with my lawn getting destroyed? Like, that was supposed to shut me up or make him untouchable? Like, the rules just don't apply to him or his kids? If anything, that should have meant that he understood boundaries better, and not use them as an excuse just to ignore them. Last week, after they tore deep ruts through the wet ground near my walkway again, I documented everything and reported it through the HOA and the proper channels. It turns out the bikes weren't even allowed for that kind of use, and once it got flagged, the situation escalated fast. Fines were then issued, and they were warned about possible impound if it continued. And guess what? The riding stopped almost immediately after that. Now, if I'm being completely honest, that part hasn't really sat right with me either. Knowing he's a cop and has access to weapons, if you know what I mean, made the whole situation feel way more intimidating than it should have been. I didn't want to escalate things in person because it felt like he was already leaning on his position to push back. And that added this weird layer where I had to think twice about every single interaction. I shouldn't have to feel uneasy just asking someone to keep their kids off of my property, but that's exactly what it turned into. So am I really the jerk here? Like, did I cross a line by I don't know, confronting my neighbor and telling him to get his kid off my property? Because I'm really not sure what to make of this. Okay, in my opinion, dude, you are not the jerk. If anything, I would call this guy's bluff. Like, I would almost want to report him to the police station and be like, yeah, this guy is almost allowing his son to drive his stupid dirt bike through my yard. And I'm not a fan of this. Like, I really don't like this, and this guy tried to make it happen almost. Or something like that, because I don't give a crap who you are. The second you say, "Oh, I'm a cop, it's fine, I know how this works," that's the second, especially in today's day and age, where I'm gonna be like, "Oh, bull crap, I don't trust that at all." There was a time where I trusted that, but nowadays, absolutely not, dude. That doesn't hold nearly enough weight in my mind for me to trust that person. And it sucks because I would argue that a majority of cops are good people and they're just trying to do the right thing, but it's the bad apples that make the rest of them look bad, where it's like, okay, I don't know if I can trust this guy or not. But regardless, no, you're not the jerk at all. This kid and his dad are jerks for trying to justify this behavior, and honestly, I think you did the right thing by saying something. Am I the jerk for feeling humiliated after my boyfriend made me leave our place in front of his friends? Because right now I feel very hurt and I just don't know what to do about this. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been dating my boyfriend for almost 3 years now. We both go to university and technically have separate homes, but he asked me to basically move in with him, and I've been staying at his place most of the time for almost a year. I keep a lot of my daily things there, and I treat it like my home. Well, yesterday we had a small argument. It was nothing serious, but during it, he said he didn't want to see me. But later on, we made up and everything seemed fine again. Well, today I had an exam, and before it, he told me that he was going to hang out with his friends, and I said okay. After my exam, I went back to his place like usual, and when I got there, I messaged him, and that's when he told me to go to my house because his friends were coming over. I then explained that I had an early morning the next day to prepare things for his birthday, and I had university meetings, and I just asked him if I could please go upstairs, take a shower, and then go to sleep. I made it clear that I didn't want to hang out with them or interrupt, I just wanted to rest. Well, guess what? He didn't even respond to that message. And then when he arrived in person with his friends, he told me that I needed to leave. I then went outside to go get my things, and all of his friends were sitting in the car watching while I grabbed a bag and left. And I gotta be honest, I felt really embarrassed and honestly humiliated. He asked me for a kiss goodbye, and I said no, and I told him that we would talk later. When I got home, I realized I forgot my toothbrush, so I went back and he wasn't even there. He literally went back to his friend's place because one of them forgot a charger. So I don't understand why I had to leave in the first place if they weren't even going to stay there. Well, now he's saying that I'm being ridiculous and overreacting because he just wanted space. face, and even said his friends didn't expect me to act crazy. What's also bothering me is that we've been talking about getting an apartment together after university, and this situation is making me question how that would even work if this is how he handles space. Now trust me, I get it, I understand wanting space, but this felt really disrespectful, especially since he's the one who asked me to live with him, and I wasn't even trying to interrupt, I was just trying to sleep. So am I really the jerk for being upset that he humiliated me, or for even feeling like that? Because right now I'm just so confused, I don't know what to do. Okay, if you've got this repertoire with your boyfriend where it's like, yeah, I spend the night all the time, we have fun together, we I don't know, share the same space, and then suddenly he's like, you can't come over anymore, I've got friends coming over, and then when you come back for your toothbrush and he's not even there, bro, that absolutely is a giant red flag. That would scream to me oh yeah, he's cheating on me, that's exactly what's going on. Or he's planning on breaking up or something like that. I don't know if this is him quiet quitting this relationship, but it kind of seems like that's what's going on. So in my opinion, I think it's worth investigating. You're definitely not the jerk for feeling humiliated. This is so unbelievably inappropriate. This should have been figured out in private instead of in front of his friends. Who wants to have that kind of situation happen? So yeah, your boyfriend's being toxic, and I would be immediately suspicious that something else is absolutely going on. Today, an entitled Karen cussed me out and caused a scene in front of several customers, all because she didn't get exactly what she wanted out of me, as she literally had the gall of calling me stupid and saying that I'm incompetent, despite the fact that I was literally a veteran and I was definitely not going to take this sitting down. So I shut down this Karen in a way that I know for a fact she will never forget, because her spoiled attitude absolutely deserved to get punished. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where karma is delicious, and yes, you get to experience it firsthand. Because the Karen in this first story absolutely deserves it, because they are the worst. My god, you're gonna love this first one. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and click the bell to turn on notifications. And with that, let's get started. Okay, so a couple of years ago, I was working at Lowe's in the flooring department. I was freshly and honorably discharged from the Army about 6 months prior to getting the job at Lowe's, and trust me when I say this will be relevant later on. Granted, I hadn't worked at the store very long, so I didn't know everything there was to know about flooring, and was by no means an expert. But the one thing I knew for sure was not to let the customers take the folders that contained the flooring details for personal use. This was really stressed to me during my training by both the computer training modules and my managers. Customers are not to take the detail that was done. This was because we often offered free flooring details in quotes, and if the customers had their free detail measurements in hand, they could simply take the measurements to another business and have them do the installation for a potentially better price. So Lowe's just didn't want that happening. Well, this is where we enter with the absolute unit of an entitled woman and her submissive husband. I'm busy at the flooring desk taking calls and helping customers, and this woman walks up to my desk. She claims that she had a detail done recently, and you guessed it, she wants to take her folder home with her. Well, I politely but firmly explained to her that it's against store policy for customers to take their measurements home with them. Well, when I say this, she starts causing a scene, exclaiming that those were her measurements done on her house, so apparently they belong to her. I then tell her that I'm happy to get a manager on the phone so they can better explain the policy to her, and confirm that I am telling her the right information. She then begins berating me, invading my personal space, and just getting in my face, being absolutely obnoxious. Now, as I'm trying to reach my manager on the phone, she is literally screaming in my face. She's saying, "Why do you need to call a manager? Why do you need to call a manager? You're new here. Are you stupid or something?" Now, you see, I'm used to people screaming in my face in the military. It didn't really bother me in the slightest. But where I drew the line was when she called me stupid. I'm not usually one to pull the whole veteran card, but I wasn't about to let this woman walk all over me. She needed to know what's up. And you know what? I was finally in a position where I didn't have to put up with people screaming in my face, and I could tell them off. My manager was busy and wasn't answering the phone, so I hung up the phone and I calmly responded by saying, "Ma'am, I was a sergeant in the Army. I'm not some 18-year-old who you can walk all over. Just so you know, I don't need this job. And I definitely don't need you screaming in my face telling me that I'm stupid. Now, I'm happy to walk up to the front of the store with you so we can speak to a manager and get this resolved. I'm here to help you, so how can I help you?" She then huffed and started cursing and making an even bigger scene as she gathered her purse and her husband, and they began walking over to customer service. I then grabbed her folder, and the people who were standing in line behind her began apologizing, saying things like, "Oh, I'm so sorry you have to deal with that." But I just shrugged and thanked them for their patience, and I said I would be right back. And I took my sweet time walking right up to the front. By the time I get up to the customer service desk, I spot the lady already complaining to the customer service staff. I quickly spotted my manager, who asked me what was going on, and with folder in hand, I simply said, "She's trying to take the folder." folder. And my manager, who's a very tall, muscular woman who didn't take anyone's crap, said, "Who's trying to do that?" And it's here that I happily gestured towards the entitled woman. My manager then asked for the folder from me and said, "Okay, thank you. You can go back to the flooring now." And at this point, I happily handed her the folder and began comfortably strolling back to my department. Now, as I was walking away, I hear this woman absolutely losing it, talking about, "Oh, I'm gonna call corporate. Do you even know who I am?" And I just smiled cool as a cucumber, knowing I did something right. She didn't get her way. I didn't get walked all over, and I didn't lose my job. In fact, I never heard another word about it from anybody. So the moral of the story is, don't piss off the veteran working in the customer service industry. In fact, don't piss off anybody in customer service for that matter, because at the end of the day, we are literally just trying to help you out. Dude, it is so nice having a manager who has your back like this, because my God, having someone who just rolls over, plays dead, and then blames you for this going wrong is the epitome of torture. I've dealt with people like that before, and it is so annoying. Here you are trying to follow the rules and be like, "Yeah, she's trying to take the folder." And then in my previous universe, you have a manager who's like, "Wow, I can't believe you upset the customer," instead of standing up for you for the policy that they're enforcing. So the fact that you've got this tough lady who's like, "Oh, absolutely not. Who's the lady who tried to do that?" and stood up for you and said, "Oh, I'm going to take care of this. Don't you worry for a second." That is fantastic. That is beautiful. And that's the way it should be, man. So good for you for having good coworkers and for standing up for yourself. Seriously, if you're in customer service and anyone starts cussing at you like this, in my mind, you have every right to turn them down and say, "I am not serving you today." So the fact that you got this lady shut down and you put her in her place by going through the right channels and doing it right, in my opinion, is beautiful and proves that your manager was cool and you had a very good working environment. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My coworker kept trying to take credit for closing tasks at our job. So I decided to get some petty revenge by no longer reminding him to do those jobs, which eventually exposed him for the incompetent moron that he truly was. And I gotta be honest, it was incredibly satisfying to watch it all go down. Here's how it happened. So I used to work the night shift at a small hotel at the front desk. There were only 2 of us, so it was pretty obvious who actually did the work and who just kind of floated around looking busy. And let me tell you something, my coworker, who I'll call Eric for the sake of the story, was great at the second one. He would avoid the boring stuff like wiping down the coffee station, restocking the key cards, or getting the breakfast setup ready, and then sit there and act like we had both done equal work. When the morning manager came in, he always made himself sound way more on top of things than he really was. The part that finally got to me was breakfast prep. The night shift was supposed to leave things ready for the morning attendant, including moving the waffle batter from the freezer so it would be usable. Technically, that was a shared responsibility, but the only reason it ever got done was because I reminded Eric every shift at around 5 o'clock in the morning. I did it because if it got missed, morning shift complained at both of us. Then one morning, Eric told our manager that I was forgetful about closing details, but that he always caught things behind me. Well, after that, I stopped reminding him. I still did my own work, mind you, but I just stopped giving him the one nudge that let him act competent. Well, 3 shifts later, and the breakfast attendant opened the freezer and realized the waffle batter had never been moved. Well, the manager asked what happened, and Eric immediately tried to say he thought I handled that part. But my manager just looked at him and said, "I thought you said you always double check behind her." At that point, the room got real quiet real fast. He didn't get fired or anything like that, but after that, he stopped trying to act like my supervisor in name tag and somehow started remembering breakfast prep all by himself, not to mention helping me out a lot more like he should have from the very beginning. Okay, dude, I gotta be honest, I've had coworkers like this in the past, and I've always wanted to do this to them. I can never find a reason to try and put them in their place and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to expose you for being lazy." So seeing this is just beautiful. I love everything about this. Because dude, working with someone like this is so exhausting. It is so tiring because it's the same garbage over and over again. They're always trying to make themselves look better than you, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm the one really doing the work around here." When in reality, it's not them at all. They're not doing anything right. So yeah, this was some beautiful karma. I love the way the original poster handled this, and I just love that Eric got put in his place because clearly he deserved it way sooner than this. Am I the jerk for turning my Dungeons & Dragons party against me all because of an accident? Because right now I'm not sure if my Dungeon Master is punishing me or if I'm really at fault here, because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, so I think I messed up and I don't really know what to do here. My friends and I have been playing this campaign in Dungeons & Dragons for over a year now, and we've been pretty consistent with each session. However, I feel like I made a huge mistake and I don't know if I should pull people out of the campaign. Our party ended up in a brothel looking for information about a bandit leader who lived in the city. Through roleplay, we eventually discovered that the workers were trapped by their boss, who was a demon. Now, my character is a chaotic good druid, so I figured if I started a small fire, then we could escape while the fire made a distraction. Well, my dungeon master did not like this. What I said would happen is basically this would start a small fire on the curtains of this brothel, but he literally escalated it into like the entire brothel burning down, and that we had 5 minutes to get out of the collapsing building. Even more, he said that there was a curse on the workers that prevented them from leaving. My party then blamed me for committing an unnecessary war crime, but I just kept protesting that I just wanted to start a small fire and that I didn't think it would burn down so quickly. Some of the party agreed that our dungeon master burned the brothel down too quickly, but one of my friends and another player were very upset and actually roleplayed ratting my character out to the city guard. We ended the session with my character low on hit points and hiding in the sewer. So am I the jerk here? Like, should I tell the dungeon master not to include my character in our next session because I really don't know what to do? Okay, I gotta be completely honest with you. I think there is a lot of things wrong with this situation, and it absolutely begins with the original poster. First off, I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for over 10 years, so I've got a very solid opinion on this, but if your character is chaotic good and you're going around starting small fires, chances are your dungeon master either is not okay with this or he's sick of your crap, which is why he burned down the whole building in the first place. Like, think about it for a second. He's probably exhausted with this stupid stuff that you keep doing. Because look at it from his perspective, dude. He literally is working so hard on this story and he's trying to get some kind of like, I don't know, environment and narrative going. And here you are in the corner lighting some matches and being like, I'm gonna create a distraction in the corner. Like, dude, I gotta be honest with you, and I really don't want to like offend you or anything like that, but I hate playing with players like you because it is so annoying to get through any kind of interaction. You literally got all the information you needed, dude. You knew that, okay, this guy's a demon, the workers are trapped, and it's like, okay, we can figure this out. But instead of going through the narrative like the dungeon master literally like, I don't know, spelled out for you, you're like, let me just start a fire again. And I guarantee you this is not the first time you've done this. Anyone who uses their alignment in Dungeons & Dragons to justify crappy actions, in my opinion, is a terrible player. Like, you're making it miserable for everybody. And I don't know, maybe the dungeon master is just shy, but if I was your dungeon master, dude, I would have told you to cut that crap out like 5 levels ago. Like, seriously, that is so annoying. So yes, I do think the original poster is the jerk here. Because guess what? The dungeon master did burn the brothel down on purpose. They said, okay, you want to start fires? Congratulations, here's the consequences. You just killed everybody just like you're trying to kill my campaign. And also, what chaotic good person is going to go around and be like, let me start a fire real quick to create a distraction? There are so many different cantrips and spells you could have used that would have been better distractions than, I don't know, starting a fire. And I'm sorry if I'm coming off as like really sharp and annoyed, but like, dude, I've dealt with players like you at my own table and it is so annoying. While the rest of us are trying to like, I don't know, play the game and role play, you're over here trying to find some workaround of like, oh, it's fine, I'll create a distraction. So yes, you are absolutely the jerk. I can't stand players like you, and I really hope this teaches you a lesson to actually go along with the narrative, because otherwise you might as well leave this campaign and jump into like Skyrim of all games and just start lighting people on fire, because that's essentially what you're doing, but at the expense of everybody else's time. And that is unacceptable and very annoying to deal with. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my roommate move his stuff after he literally told our landlord I had a cat, which in effect made me move out of our apartment? Because right now I'm getting the guilt trip from everybody to just let it go and to somehow forgive my roommate, despite the fact that this literally upended my entire life. Here's what's currently happening. Okay, so I've had my cat called Miso for about 3 years. And when I moved into this apartment, I was upfront with my roommate, who I will call Dan, about her before we even signed anything. And he said that he was fine with it and didn't have any allergies, so there was honestly no issues. So I thought to myself, okay, cool, this might actually work. Well, fast forward to last month. I come home and Dan tells me that he mentioned to our landlord in an offhanded way that I have a cat. And yes, our lease has a no pets clause. I now have 30 days to rehome Miso or move out. I asked him why he did it, and he said it just came up in conversation and he didn't think it would be that big of a deal. But it's like, are you kidding me? Didn't think it would be a big deal? I've had her for 3 years and he knew the entire time, and he just casually drops it in a conversation. I ended up finding a new place faster than expected, and a friend of mine is taking Miso temporarily while I get settled. Dan is now also moving out because without me splitting rent, he can't afford the place. And it's here that he actually asked me if I could help him move his furniture next weekend since I have a truck. But guess what? I said no. He then got pretty upset and said I was being petty and that it wasn't intentional. And now his girlfriend's texting me separately saying that I'm being really unkind. But you know what? I don't think I did anything wrong. But apparently my sister says that I should help him out and just let it go. I genuinely don't know if I'm being stubborn or if this is a reasonable boundary, because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say this for all of us. Screw Dan. And before anyone says it, okay, I get it. You shouldn't have had a pet in the house in the first place. Whatever, I get it, okay? I totally understand that's definitely a big issue here. But there's also the reality of Dan just keeping his mouth shut, dude. Like seriously, it seems like the cat wasn't bothering anybody. No one would have known that the cat was there in the first place. And sometimes it's better not to throw your roommate under the bus. Like seriously, everybody was cool with it. You were upfront about having a cat, and like this really should not have been an issue. So for Dan to do this in such a stupid way, and yeah, Dan was being very dumb here, because that to me is almost just as bad as having like a bad roommate. Because Dan did this so like flippantly, and he's like, what's the big deal? I didn't think it was gonna be that big of a deal. Oh wait, you're moving out? My bad. Like dude, what an idiot. Just keep your mouth shut and none of this would have happened. So for Dan to come at you and be like, hey, sorry I got you kicked out of the apartment. Anyways, can you help me move my furniture? Like no, absolutely not. I'm not helping you with anything. You threw me under the bus over my cat, so congratulations, you can get your own truck and move it yourself. Because seriously, Dan's at fault here, even if the original poster broke the rules, as there literally was no reason to say anything in the first place. But hey, I'm not perfect, man, so let me know in the comments section, am I wrong? If you had no problem with this cat, would you also tell the roommate that there's a cat in your house? Leave a comment down below, I would love to hear what you have to say. An entitled Karen loses her mind over the cost of alcohol she's trying to buy, as she is screaming and cussing at the cashier in a way that I simply couldn't take anymore, because eventually I spoke up and I put her in her place, resulting in this Karen storming out of the store in a fit of rage. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a few days ago at a local liquor store, and as I was waiting to be served, I saw these two girls. I'm assuming they were in their like early 20s, and for reference, I was next in line, but I let them go ahead of me because I had a feeling something was going to go down, and man, did they not disappoint. The Karen of this story went to the register to purchase a bottle of wine, and she immediately started complaining about the pricing. Their outfits and demeanor, especially from the ringleader, gave me the impression that they were going to be troubled pretty much from the get-go. I could also tell by their outfits that they were not from here. I live in a small country city, and I knew these girls were from the city itself, and definitely not here. The dialogue went something like this. She said to the cashier, but that's not right. The price said $12.50, not $13. What's wrong with you? Do you know how to read? This is ridiculous. I mean, come on. She was huffing and puffing and complaining about everything. Then she knocked over a large glass bottle of alcohol that was under the register and broke it. Which, yes, by the way, alcohol smashed all over the floor. Keep in mind that the alcohol placed under the register is cheap, and if this Karen was polite and friendly, the staff member would probably not make her pay for it. But what came out of the cashier's mouth made my day. They looked her square in the eye and said, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to pay for that. And this is when the Karen really flipped her lid. She started arguing that she couldn't possibly have knocked it over when I was right behind her, and apparently I could see everything. But yeah, for reference, she definitely knocked it over. But at this point, I had had enough of her antics, and I said to her, please, just check your entitlement and grow up. When I said this, the Karen spun around and snapped at me to mind my own business. But I said right to her face, well, maybe try to be a nicer person because you seem like a total Karen. Now, I guess you can all imagine how this response was not what she was expecting, because she kicked off big time and started yelling at me. But I just told her that I honestly don't give a crap and that she can take her entitlement elsewhere. Unfortunately, my story doesn't really have an exciting ending or a mic drop moment. I mean, I wish I said bye Karen as they left the store, but at least I stood up to a Karen. I do not do well with confrontation, but now that I'm in my 30s, I'm getting a lot braver and a lot less tolerant of entitled people. So please be kind to retail workers. They're just doing their job and shouldn't have to deal with entitled people like this. Okay, I love this so much, dude, because it connects so well with some of the other stories we cover on this channel. Because seriously, there's no reason to yell at customer service representatives, dude. They're not doing anything wrong. This is just their job. They do this to make rent and that's it. They don't care about the price, but they have to like enforce it. And they're definitely gonna make you pay for something if you break it. Like, I'm sorry, but you gotta pay for it. Especially if you're acting like such a clown like this one lady. Like, what are we doing right now? So good for the original poster for speaking up, dude. You're so right. It's better to say something and try to like diffuse the situation than letting anybody walk all over someone else. Because the customer service retail person didn't do anything wrong. They're just doing their job and they don't deserve this kind of treatment. Today, I just ended a 4-year relationship with my girlfriend after she chose to go to a private hangout at a house with 3 other guys that I don't even know. Because this is just one of many things that kind of led to the end of this relationship, and I honestly feel terrible about it. And I'm not sure how to handle it or even how to move forward. Here's what happened. Okay, I'm struggling to process a breakup that happened just a few hours ago. My girlfriend and I were together for nearly 4 years, and we basically grew up together. Yesterday, she canceled our plans because she said she had a headache and needed to rest. And I really was totally fine with it until like a few hours later when she told me that she was heading out of town today to stay at a private house with 3 guy friends. Her reason was that they were bored of our local hangout spots. I then told her clearly that I wasn't comfortable with the private setting, not to mention the timing, especially since she was sick for our plans together, but somehow healthy enough for an out-of-town trip. She told me she just wanted to enjoy and promised to update me from time to time, but I told her that wasn't enough, and when she insisted on going anyways, that's when I ended the relationship. Now, the part that hurts the most is the double standard. Last year, I had a university organization event, and she explicitly asked me not to drink and to ensure I only stayed in a room with other guys. And you know what? I followed her request, not because I felt controlled, but because I loved her, and I didn't want her to spend her night worrying. I assumed that after 4 years, that level of mutual respect and reciprocity was our standard. It's nighttime now, and I know she is likely at that house while I'm here processing the end of a 4-year chapter. I still love her deeply, but I can't comprehend how wanting to enjoy a weekend was worth throwing away the security we built up over the years. So I really need a reality check. Did I do the right thing by ending it, or was I just being too rigid? Is it really being controlling to expect a partner to honor the same boundaries that I've honored for her in the past? And also, how do you handle the realization that someone you've spent 4 years with doesn't value your peace of mind the same way you value theirs? What should I do? Because right now I feel very lost and I just don't know how to handle this. Okay, other people have basically said it in the comments section, but it really seems like your girlfriend wanted to break up, but she didn't want to be the one to say it. Because in my opinion, this feels so premeditated, it's not even funny. And I would even venture to say that she probably has a thing for one of the 3 guys, where it's like, okay, she's going to be spending time with this one guy, and the other guys are going to be hanging out playing video games or doing anything else. Like, I guarantee you that's what's going on. Especially with her being like, oh, I'm too sick to spend time with you, but yes, I'm going to go out of town, that's going to be fun. And it's like, wait a second, there is a double standard. You went out of your way to avoid being around any other women, but on the other hand, she can clearly go and spend time at some house like hours away, and her being like, oh yeah, I just want to enjoy myself. I'll update you from time to time, I guess. Like, no, I don't think so, dude. This is absolutely not okay. So on that end, I understand where the original poster is coming from, because I would also break up with this chick. There's no way I'm putting up with that, dude. That's so weird. And it's super toxic, and it's super hypocritical. Like, this is unacceptable. So no, you didn't do anything wrong. I think it's just going to take some time to realize that she probably checked out of this relationship a while back, and it's only now starting to come to a head. And while I am sorry that it happened to you, and I'm sure this is going to be a tough time for you, I think you're going to be so much better off without her, because she clearly doesn't care about you in the way that you care about her. My boyfriend still has weekly date nights with his ex-girlfriend, which, by the way, is a girlfriend he's dated off and on for 10 years. And honestly, right now, it's making me question everything about our relationship, because him and his ex are still going out every weekend despite the fact that we're in a relationship, which has essentially put me in a position where I really just don't know what to do anymore. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, where your boyfriend can still date his ex and somehow this is seen as okay, which is happening in this first story. It's very weird, so strap in for this one. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and click the bell to turn on notifications. Let's get started. So I've been with my boyfriend for about 4 months now, and overall he's honestly amazing. He's kind, caring, and really supportive. He has autism and ADHD, which is new for me, so I'm still learning how to communicate things in a way that works for the both of us. Now, before we got together, we were talking for about 6 months, and during this time and ever since then, he's mentioned his friend, who I will call Caroline, quite a bit. She's the sister of his best friend and has been in his life ever since secondary school. I knew they had dated in the past, but he told me it ended because she came out, so I didn't really think much of it. Well, last week something new came up. He mentioned that about a year ago, him and Caroline were actually dating again, but split up because she came out as gay. When I asked more about it, he explained that they've been on and off for almost 10 years, dating other people in between, but always coming back to each other. I also found out that they don't just hang out in a group like I'd assumed. They see each other every Friday night, just the two of them, watching scary movies and getting takeout. And this is something that we used to do when they were together and have continued doing. And I gotta be honest, that really made me uncomfortable, because to me, it feels like a standing date night with an ex. I explained this to him calmly, and he seemed to understand and said that he would change it. But last night, he did the exact same thing again. But when I brought it up, he said he still needs to be able to spend time with his friends. Now, I don't want to control who he sees, and I understand that friendships matter, but this specific situation feels different to me, given their history and the fact that it's a regular one-on-one thing that mirrors what they did as a couple. So how do I approach this in a way he'll understand without it turning into an argument? Because right now, I really just don't know what to do.
Okay, I gotta be honest, this is like a giant red flag, dude. They've been on and off dating for 10 years, and suddenly Caroline's like, oh yeah, I'm gay now, we can't be together. But sure, let's have date nights every single weekend, it's fine. I don't care that you're dating someone else, that's totally okay. Like, if that doesn't scream that they're probably gonna get back together like they've done for the past 10 years, then I don't know what is. And I'm not doubting Caroline coming out or anything like that, like whatever, that's totally fine. That's not even part of the issue. But what I am saying is that, dude, it could happen. Like, it's already happened for like a decade. Who's to say you're not just another in-between girl between the two of them? So yeah, if this was me, I would take this as a giant red flag and be like, dude, if we're actually in a relationship, please start acting like it. Stop dating your ex, even if she's gay. I don't trust that. That sounds really sketchy, and it kind of seems like there's something going on there. And I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would address this much sooner than later. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for telling an ER nurse to stop scolding me after I literally was just trying to get a wheelchair for my mom who had broken her foot? Because this situation really dissolved into something I didn't want to be a part of. And I'm honestly not sure if I crossed a line or if I'm justified in any way. Here's basically what happened. Okay, so I've been helping my mom out all week because she has a broken foot. I'm driving her around, helping with groceries, and just around the house. I'm a 28-year-old female, and we were at the local hospital emergency room, and the situation was a mess. In fact, when we got there, there were like 0 wheelchairs available in the emergency room, so my mom had to use her crutches. She was absolutely exhausted and really struggling. The triage nurse herself was the one who sent me to go find a wheelchair. I started to head out, but I was confused about where to go, so I came back to get further clarification. A paramedic standing there told me that she didn't think there were any left in the main entrance, but the triage nurse told me she doesn't know what she's saying. She doesn't work here. I'm the one who works here and knows everything. The paramedic then made a bit of a face, but she offered to walk me up anyways, since I had never been to that part of the building, the main entrance, or this hospital in general before. We get to the wheelchair stack and I grab one from the exact same pile the paramedic did, and hers was clean and mine looked a little damp, but I had been at a different hospital last week where they wipe everything down before putting it back, so I assumed it was just wet from like disinfectant or something like that. Well, when we get back to the emergency room, this triage nurse starts giving me a moral lecture. She starts saying that I'm inconsiderate and I need to be more considerate of others. How I need to take care of old people and be better, and somehow acting like my mom, who's like only in her 50s, was some senile patient I was neglecting. I never raised my voice and I never swore, but I just calmly said, please stop scolding me. And that apparently just made it way worse, because then she started scolding me about the fact that I told her to stop scolding me. She kept going on and on about how I, again, need to do better and help out the elderly, and I literally had to say, please just stop several times before she finally quit. My mom was just super stressed out and said that I shouldn't have bothered saying anything, which is funny because my mom can be very much the same, but I truly just don't think I did anything wrong. I was just trying to help my mom in a confusing situation, and I didn't think I deserved to be lectured like a child. I'm also not a healthcare worker or taking care of elderly in my day-to-day interactions, so I don't know, it kind of felt like I was getting a lecture from a coworker almost. So am I the jerk for sticking up for myself because I don't know what to do? No, you're not the jerk. That nurse was being a complete moron. Seriously, all you were doing was getting a wheelchair, dude. It's not like you're neglecting your mom. You're not abandoning her. You're clearly getting something that obviously she needs. Otherwise, she's gonna be hobbling around on crutches all day. Like, that sounds miserable. In my opinion, if I was in your situation, I would absolutely report that nurse immediately. I would go back there and be like, I want to talk to a supervisor of some kind, because I'm pretty sure scolding a patient coming in or someone helping out a patient is most definitely not a part of their protocol, and it sounds like someone needs to be retrained. So overall, no, of course you're not the jerk, you didn't do anything wrong, and I think you did the right thing by standing up for yourself. Am I the jerk for not wanting to have a craft night with my best friend after she literally bailed the 2 other times I tried to schedule it after she lied to me just to hang out with her boyfriend? Because now I'm a little bit pissed off and I seriously just don't know what else to do. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so me and my best friend have known each other for about 3 years now. About a year ago, she met her boyfriend, and pretty much since then, she will just blow me off at every opportunity to spend time with him. I kid you not, if we have plans together, she will ask if her boyfriend can come along or turn it into a couples thing by
also inviting my boyfriend, or most often just show up with her boyfriend without telling me that he'd be there. And honestly, it drives me crazy. Her boyfriend and my boyfriend were actually really good friends before we all met, so we do hang out in group settings a lot, but sometimes you just want some girl time. On the rare occasions she does hang out alone with me, she texts her boyfriend constantly, and if she's not texting him, she is constantly talking about him. I gave her grace when they first started dating because I'm aware of how much a new relationship changes your priorities. However, now they are a year in and nothing has changed. They live in the same apartment, they work together, and when they're not together, they're on the phone with each other. All of this to say that they pretty much spend 24/7 together, but I still try to hang out with her one-on-one once every few weeks or so. Well, a few months ago, I asked if she wanted to have a craft night at my apartment where I would get some wine and some activity for us to do and just hang out. And after she finally said yes, we set a date and a time. The day of, I went to the store and I got the wine and I got some crafts and all this other stuff. And as I'm headed home, I get a text message from her that says that she doesn't feel good and that she's going to have to bail. Now, it's bad timing on her part, but oh well, what can I do about it? So instead of just sitting alone and drinking a bottle of wine, I do the craft that I was supposed to do with her with my boyfriend. My boyfriend then talks to her boyfriend that night and checks up on my friend, and her boyfriend actually tells us that she's fine and they're watching a movie. Well, a month after that, she goes out of her way to ask me if we can have a craft night since she missed the last one. And when she asks that, I say yes, of course. So we set a date and a time, and the day of, I go to the store once again and I buy all the stuff I need and I get it all set up at home. But then 20 minutes before it's crafting time, she sends me another text message, and yes, she bails again. This time her back just hurts way too much to go and do the craft night. Well, she must not be telling her boyfriend her lies because he tells my boyfriend they are actually going out that night. So it's here that my boyfriend and I do a second craft night together. Well, a week ago, she asked if I wanted to do another craft night, but I just straight up tell her I really just don't want to go and get all the stuff just for you to bail on me again. But she says it shouldn't even matter because I do the crafts with my boyfriend, so it's not a waste of money. I then tried to explain to her that it is more of a respect thing than anything else. And if I knew that I didn't want to hang out the day of, I wouldn't let you spend money on an activity I had no intention of participating in. She then tried to say that I was in the wrong for doing all the crafts with my boyfriend instead of trying to reschedule with her. But I then explained that it's almost impossible to do anything with her without her bailing to hang out with her boyfriend. And now, because of that, she's mad at me. So seriously, am I the jerk at all in this situation? Because I'm really frustrated, and at this point I don't know what to do with my friend. Dude, if I was in your shoes, I probably would be like, okay, we can have a craft night, but you're scheduling it. We're doing it at your place and you're buying all the stuff. Because seriously, the last two, she's the one that's bailed. She's the one that's backed out suddenly and said, oh, I can't do it. Sorry about that. Just straight up lying to your face and being like, oh, my back hurts, or oh, I'm not feeling good, or whatever other excuse she tries to come up with. Like, screw that. You can foot the bill, lady. I'm not doing this. We're going to your place from now on and you can figure it out. Because dude, this is like strike number 2 out of 3. She's seriously trying to be like, okay, let's try this again for the 3rd time. But if the first 2 situations don't indicate anything, then my God, the original poster is setting themselves up for failure again. So no, you're not the jerk. Like, honestly, your friend needs to start scheduling this if her schedule is that weird, and she just clearly can't get anything going without being like, oh yeah, I want to spend time with my boyfriend instead of you. Because this behavior is weird, it's a little bit toxic if you ask me, and I just would never want to put up with this. This next story is proof that maybe it's not a good idea to bring your spouse with you to a job interview, because the original poster's wife in this story quite literally cost them the job they were trying to get. And now the original poster is trying to figure out if they overreacted by being pissed off. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife and I drove to a town 2 hours away for a last-minute job interview for a tenure track position for me. It's currently April, and if you know, then you know that now is a pretty late time to get a job offer teaching university for the fall. But I haven't had any bites besides this one, and I am humanities. My contract at my current college is over. I'm the breadwinner and we need this job. It would also mean that we would need to pack up and move. Our lease is ending in June and we need answers. Okay, so on to the issue at hand. My wife, who I will call Claire for the sake of the story, drove with me, and since we were in the same state, they didn't provide a hotel. So Claire waited for me in the Panera on campus. After the interview, the dean asked if we could go to the Panera for a coffee on her to finish our conversation. It's been about 2.5 hours and
I'm sure Claire is bored, but she has a test to study for, so I hope she'll make it work, and I don't really plan to introduce them. Neither of us wear a ring, and I'm never sure where people stand with homophobia and all that stuff, but I honestly really want this job, and I can say it later if I need to. So I give her the heads up that we will be in there. The dean is, well, a very chatty person. She talks about the school, but then tells lots of long anecdotes about her grandchildren with videos on her phone. It is, of course, very boring, but I'm not in a position to give her anything except for my undivided attention. But Claire, however, is getting very antsy. The weather's getting bad, so she starts pointing at her watch and waving her arms behind the dean. It is super distracting, but I just ignore her. I know if it's an emergency, she'd say something. At this point, she's texting me, and I can see on my watch that she's saying it's time to go. Well, after about an hour of the dean talking, I can tell she's getting ready to wrap up her stories, because it's here she starts to get back to the job. She then says to me, I want to offer you this job, but I have one question. Do you think you'll be able to move in 4 months? That is short notice, but do you have anyone else to consider when it comes to moving? And I realize that, yeah, she's trying to find out if I have any family. Claire, at this moment, as if she was on cue, comes over and says, I see you guys are getting to know each other, and I think that's wonderful, but we actually left our pet alone at home, and we should really be getting on the road. Now, for reference, my best friend is literally my next door neighbor, and they always take our pet if we need them to, so Claire really does know that's not an issue. When Claire said this, the dean was taken aback and said, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll be in touch. And honestly, I am livid over this. So am I overreacting about this situation? Because I really just don't know what to do. Okay, before we go any further, the original poster has an update to this story, and this is what they had to say. Okay, as an update to this situation, my friend is a friend of one of the teachers that works there, and she said the dean offered another candidate the job, but she turned it down because of the salary and instead went somewhere else. So I'm next on the list. I'm angry because that means it probably kicked me down from being her first choice, but I'm grateful the other candidate got her first choice and could say no to this job. Also, for those of you who are asking why I brought Claire with me in the first place, honestly, she asked to come along. She wanted to see the town, and I thought it would be cool if I had 2 hours to practice my talk. But honestly, I had no idea the dean was going to offer to go to Panera. She took me in her personal car for a tour, and then said that she wanted to take me to get Panera to continue talking. Claire was close enough to hear the conversation and realize it wasn't what she thought it was, and so it made sense to her to just decide to interrupt. I didn't plan to introduce her because it was my interview, and it really was not a good time to do that in my opinion. But on the car ride home, Claire doubled down, saying that she shouldn't be made the villain because she cares about safety. So now I'm waiting to see if I get this job because honestly, I really hope I get it. Okay, dude, this is so unacceptable. I don't care who you are. Walking up and interrupting the interview, the interview you desperately need, probably was the reason why the original poster did not get the job, especially not right off the bat. Like, that was incredibly unprofessional. I would have been so pissed off if I had someone do that to me. Like, if I was in Claire's situation and I saw my spouse walking in with the person they're interviewing with, I would get out of town, dude. I'd walk down the street. I would go anywhere else just to give my partner the time they need to go through the interview. Like, this is all still a part of the interview too, by the way. This is the dean trying to be like, okay, what do you really like outside of like a normal interview setting? They're trying to see how you act in public and how you're going to treat like customer service people. Like, this is a normal part of the interview, and Claire definitely screwed it up. Like, is the dean gonna have to deal with Claire on a daily basis where it's like, oh, we're trying to have a meeting, but Claire's getting in the way? And if anything, this kind of gave an indication of like, oh yeah, I kind of don't want to deal with this person's wife. They sound annoying. At least that would be my knee-jerk reaction if I was the dean in this situation. Like, honestly, that's how I would think. So Claire stepping in and interrupting this interview, in my opinion, was completely out of line. So no, you're not overreacting. I think your wife literally cost you this job, and that really sucks. My toxic neighbors are so bad that it caused me to literally move and sell my property. So I decided to get some revenge by selling it to the meanest person I could possibly find, which caused my former neighbors to be so miserable that now they're desperately trying to sell their property as well. And honestly, it feels really good to get back at these people because they made my life a living nightmare. Here's basically how I did it. Okay, to start things off, I have to admit, I can't deal with crappy neighbors. I have severe PTSD due to some stuff in my childhood, and I explode every time someone is being a jerk. I now have a PTSD service dog, and he helps a lot, but I've decided I can't put myself in certain situations, and crappy neighbors are certainly a trigger for me. That's all to say that I basically sold my property because of such neighbors. They were constantly breaking into my place, helping themselves to my property, firing off their weapons in my direction, destroying my trees. They destroyed the only access road I could use, so if I had a medical emergency, I was really screwed. They mess with my well and my electrical panel, emotional, and no amount of kindness or reasoning helped in any way, shape, or form. So I decided to do something about it. In fact, I told my friend and agent that I wanted him to find the biggest jerk on the planet, a territorial, confrontational jerk of epic proportions, and the most anal and nitpicky nightmare guy possible, and sell it to him. It made the sale more challenging and complicated, but that's exactly what he did. Well, 6 months later, he calls me laughing his head off, saying to me, "Oh, your old neighbors? They're terrified of your buyer. He has more money than they do and threatens to sue them every time they put a toe on his property line. He's got cameras everywhere. He's a Karen and a Rambo rolled into one, plus he's friends with a local sheriff. They've been on the straight and narrow ever since he moved in, and they're miserable." Now, my friend had also put them on the no list, which is a list that agents use to warn each other not to take on certain sellers. They've been wanting to sell their property because of the new guy, but no one will take them on as clients. Now, as for me, I bought a very cool RV with parts of the proceeds. I now live full-time out of an RV with my dog, and we travel everywhere. If the neighbors are jerks, then I just pack up and I move. Though I don't have neighbors often because I boondock in the wilderness most of the time. I also save a ton of money with this lifestyle. So yeah, in a way, they did chase me off my land, but I decided to teach them to be careful with what they wish for, because now their life is incredibly miserable. Oh man, this is awesome. First off, you had some terrible neighbors. You're telling me these people were trespassing and like destroying your property? Like, holy crap, that is unbelievably bad. That goes far beyond them just making noise or being loud during a weekday or keeping you up at night. Like, this is some actual like measurable damage they were doing to your property. So honestly, I don't blame you for selling your place and being like, I gotta get out of here. I think any person, regardless of if they have PTSD or not, would probably have trouble with that. But the way you did it is amazing. I love the fact that you're like, find me the worst person on planet Earth. Give me the most toxic and meanest guy you can find. Let's put them next to these people and see how they like it. Like, we all know the saying of like, oh, give them a taste of their own medicine, but this is taking it to a whole different level, because you might as well be getting a funnel and just shoving it down their throat. Like, this is awesome. So yeah, good for you. You did the right thing. You gave these people a very healthy dose of karma, and from the sounds of it, they definitely deserved it. Am I the jerk for taking all the food from my ex-boyfriend's fridge, since I'm the one that bought all of it and he literally never cooked? Because right now my friends are kind of making me feel guilty and I just don't know if I made a mistake. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was dating my ex for about 1.5 years and living together for almost a year. And for reference, my ex cannot cook. Before we started dating, he basically lived off of energy drinks and frozen meals. So when we were living together, I did all the cooking. And because I did all the cooking, I also did all the grocery shopping. He used to give me cash before I went to the store, but he hasn't really contributed to the grocery budget for a few months now. I broke up with him for a variety of reasons, but mostly because I was sick of being his stupid maid. He wasn't a slob and didn't leave a mess everywhere, but he never actually cleaned anything. So on top of doing all the cooking, I was also doing all the laundry, the dishes, and the cleaning. So a few weeks ago, I broke up with him, and the next day, a friend and I took the day off of work and cleaned out my stuff. And because I paid for all of it, I also took all the food out of the kitchen. I cleared the fridge, freezer, and the pantry cabinet, and there was literally nothing left in the apartment to eat. I also took all the cleaning supplies, but I doubt he'll miss those at all. Now, I know it was petty, but it's not like I took his stuff. I'm the one who paid for the food. A few of my friends say that I was unnecessarily mean, and I should have at least left enough for a few sandwiches. But you know what? Groceries are expensive, and he wouldn't know what to do with any of it anyways. So seriously, am I the jerk for taking my food out of the fridge? Or should I have at least left something for my ex-boyfriend? Because right now, I'm not sure if I made a mistake and I don't really know what to do. Okay, dude, you are not the jerk at all. I would have done the same thing. Screw that, dude. He didn't do anything in the relationship. He clearly just wanted a maid instead of like, I don't know, a girlfriend and like an equal partner in this. And he was probably happy like, oh yeah, you're cooking all the time. This is great. And then pretty soon that convenience turned into like almost this entitlement where it's like, no, I'm not going to give you any money anymore. You're going to pay for everything and cook me food. And that, in my opinion, is like the breaking point, dude. That's where you're like, okay, you've got to share the load. I cannot be the only one doing the laundry and the dishes and cleaning and cooking. Like, dude, that's unacceptable. That's just lazy in my opinion. So yeah, I don't blame you for breaking up with him, and I don't blame you for taking all that food. It's literally yours. You're the one that paid for it. Why leave it in the fridge? He's not going to do anything with it. Because if you left it, it's just going to rot in his fridge for who knows how long. And at least when it's going with you, you're not wasting it, and you get to save just a little bit of money. Even if that means your ex-boyfriend's going to have nothing to eat. My entitled mom is constantly going through my room, as she rummages through my stuff when I'm not there all the time. And now, after finally having video evidence that she's been doing this, instead of admitting her wrongdoings towards me, she quite literally turned everybody against me, as this is now being spun in a way to make me seem like the bad guy, all because I set up a camera in my room to catch my mom in the act. And now it feels like the whole world's crashing in on me, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where you can see that, yeah, some people's parents really just don't respect you, and they really will invade your privacy. And the mom in this story does that and then some. So strap in for this first one, it is definitely interesting. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and hit the bell to turn on notifications. That way you can never miss a video. Let's get started. I'm a 19-year-old male, and my mom and I have had numerous fights the past few weeks, most of which are on the same topic, that being her going into my room and looking around without me knowing. Basically, every time I would leave the house for work or anything else, I would always leave my door fully closed. But when I came back, it would always be open. Also, I would be incredibly positive that certain things had been moved around or just straight up gone. So naturally, I would ask my mom if she had gone into my room, and she would always say no. Now, maybe the first couple of times I could just play it off and think to myself, okay, maybe I forgot to close my bedroom door or something like that. But once it started happening multiple times a week, I knew it literally wasn't the case. So yesterday, I went out and I bought one of those Bluetooth surveillance cameras. And at this point, I was positive she was going in my room behind my back and then lying about it later. And I will say, I just wanted proof, because I knew this would just continue happening otherwise. Well, this morning before I left for work, I made sure the camera was working, I closed my bedroom door completely, and then I headed out. Well, at around midday, I got a notification on my phone that the camera had detected some motion. So I pulled it up to view the recording, and wouldn't you know it, there was my mom going through my drawers, my closet, and my desk. She was even grabbing certain things and throwing them out onto the hallway. I then closed the video feed, absolutely seething, making sure I saved it first, and I planned to confront her first thing when I was done with my shift. When I got home, I immediately asked her if she had gone into my room. She said no, but I responded by pulling up the video and holding my phone in front of me so that she could see it. Now, instead of apologizing, she literally exploded on me. She screamed at me for installing a camera in her house without her permission, but I responded by demanding an explanation for her going into my room. She insisted that she had every right to as my mother, and she began questioning certain things in my room, to which I said, okay, well, it's none of your business. At this point, I was done. I stormed off and I went to my room. And within the hour, my phone started blowing up with messages from family, all siding with my mom, telling me I'm insane for putting a camera in my room. I kid you not, the entire family's on my mom's side except for my dad. And unfortunately, my dad can't stop this himself, as my parents split up years ago, and he really isn't allowed in my mom's house. But I swear, I'm doing nothing wrong here. Like, it's my only space in the house where I keep my things, I relax, and do my own stuff. So seriously, am I the jerk here, or am I just completely out of my mind because I really don't know what to do? Okay, dude, if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely start the process of moving in with my dad if that was even an option. Because holy crap, this sounds obnoxious. First off, I'm absolutely on the original poster side because this seems incredibly weird, and I would hate to have someone going through my stuff all the time. And it's not even about like, oh, well, what are you hiding? Because that's kind of what the mom's implying. She's trying to dig into this idea of like, oh, you're hiding something and I'm gonna find it. But it's like, dude, it's just my own private space. Like, what's the big deal? If I want to sit in there and relax and at least know my stuff is not gonna be moved around, then that is literally my right. Like, leave me alone, dude. And the original poster even said like, hey, I've never stolen anything. There's nothing illegal in my room. It's just that he values his privacy and he wants to keep it that way. And honestly, I feel that, dude. And I also feel bad for you. Like, this really sucks. The fact that you even had to buy a Bluetooth like surveillance camera just to prove a point is so idiotic in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk. Your mom is being insane and she's being weird. And the fact that she's trying to manipulate this to turn it against you with like the whole family is also super toxic. So hopefully you can move in with your dad. Like, hopefully that's an option of some kind, because then you might actually have some peace and have some semblance of like, I don't know, some privacy you can work with, because this scenario really sucks and I'm sorry that you're going through it. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say.
My mom is guilt-tripping me hard about moving out, as she is seriously making me feel terrible about leaving, as I'm basically the only reason that house is even staying together. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what's currently going on. To start things off, I'm a 21-year-old Hispanic female. I recently graduated from nursing school, and I've been working at a hospital about an hour away. I was originally going to move out so that I can live in the same city as my job. However, I started dating my current boyfriend, and he works north while I work more south. Anyways, we signed a lease a week ago that lands us at an ideal middle point between both jobs. And let me tell you something, I am beyond excited to move out. But here's the real issue that I'm having. My mom is crying, complaining, whining, and just really making a big deal about me moving out in the first place. She's telling me that I'm stupid and selfish, all because I'm renting and not getting a mortgage. But I keep telling her that I can no longer do an hour-long commute because it's honestly so tiring. So okay, I listened to her and I tried so hard to stay home because I know I'm holding the home together, but honestly, I need to do what's best for me. As the eldest of 5, I know I'm responsible for my sisters, the pets, my mom's health, and myself. I'm the only driver. I have health literacy, so I'm able to translate and sign documents. And I would be lying if I said I'm not tired. My mental health got so bad to the point that I had to go to the emergency room and had to start taking multiple medicines. No one knows about my attempts and how miserable I'm living. I have a small room to myself and I pay rent for it. I pay some bills, and I try helping out to lift the burden off my mom. It's just that every time I come into my room, it's always so cluttered because of my hobbies. I can't even do said hobbies due to the limited space of the room, and I feel like a bird in a cage. I don't know what to do or how to stop the guilt from getting to me. But regardless, she keeps trying to stop me from moving out. 2 days ago, my car broke down after getting home after a 12-hour shift, and it literally wouldn't even start again because the starter was broken. It's in the shop right now, and hopefully it gets fixed before my next shift. Once I told my mom about my car breaking down, she hit me with the saying of like, "Oh, I told you to stay here and save for a car. Now you have no car and have to pay rent. You are so stupid." And my God, I was so annoyed, and I didn't need to feel like crap after being stressed about my car. I simply can't wait to move out, but I also feel like a jerk for leaving. I really don't know if they will be able to manage without me, and at this point I don't know what to do. Okay, dude, I would be getting out of there like as fast as possible. There's no way this is okay. Your mom's guilt-tripping you and trying to make you feel dumb for leaving, but holy crap, it's pretty obvious you run that place. She's realizing that the one person she leans on more than anybody else is leaving, and now she's got to step up as a mom and actually do that stuff herself. Which, by the way, she's more than capable of doing that crap. She's not helpless, like this woman knows what she's doing, and more than anything, she's basically trying to be like, "Oh wow, if you leave, our life is just gonna be ruined, and it's gonna be your fault, and also you're stupid." Like, what are we doing right now? That's so weird and toxic. So bro, if I was in your shoes, I would be moving out as soon as possible. I would get out of there and not think twice about it, because it's pretty obvious your mom's being super toxic, and I would hate to deal with that personally. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my cousin out with something after he refused to follow up with me about whether he can loan me some money? Because I'm really upset about this, and it seems like he's avoiding this situation instead of just being upfront with me. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I recently went through a bit of a rough patch financially because of a job transition and some relocation issues I was going through. It is temporary, but things have been really tight in the short term. Well, a few days ago, I asked my cousin, who I am quite close with by the way, and I live close to them, if he could lend me a small amount of money to help cover essentials like petrol and diapers for my son. Nothing crazy, just enough to get me through a few days. He responded saying that he would check his fund situation, but then changed the subject and started talking about something else, like offering to lend me formal shoes, which felt very random given what I literally just asked. So I just left it at that and I didn't really push it. Well, a couple days later, he asked me to help him with something. And it's not money related, but still, it's something that would take time and effort from me. Well, I feel a bit annoyed because when I needed help, he kind of dodged the question instead of just being upfront. So I told him that I'm not really in a position to help right now. He thinks I'm being petty and says he just needed to check his finances and that I shouldn't take it personally. But I feel like if he couldn't have helped me, then he should have just said so instead of avoiding it. So am I the jerk for refusing to help him when he needed something, even though he kind of ghosted me when I asked him for help? Because I really just don't know what to make of this. No, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your cousin's being very rude right now. Here you are saying like, dude, I need money for gas and diapers. Like, can you please help me out? I'll pay you back. And instead of getting back to you and be like, yeah, here's a couple $100, take care of it, he decided to be like, oh, let me check my financial situation. By the way, help me do stuff. And it's like, dude, if you're not willing to help me out with something very small, then why would you ask me to help you with something that seemingly seems a lot bigger? Like, I'm not sure what they're asking them to do, but it's like, okay, this seems like this would take a lot of time. And I'm already short on money and my situation's weird, so it's like, no, I can't do that, dude. But for me, it's so funny that he shot back and said, I just needed to check my finances. You don't need to take it personally. But it's like, dude, the original poster didn't say anything about the money. They just said,
said, hey, I'm not really in a position to help right now. Sorry about that. Maybe they said, hey, I'm tight on money, so I'm trying to figure things out. But it's like, yeah, their cousin jumped to being defensive real quick. Almost like they knew they needed to follow up about the whole money thing, but decided not to, which is way worse than just being upfront, dude. I would rather someone say, yeah, I can't give you money, instead of just ghosting me and pretend like it didn't happen. So no, you're not the jerk. I would never help this cousin out at all, and probably never ask them for money ever again, because it really seems like they're just going to give you the runaround. Am I overreacting for being pissed off at a visitor who's coming to my apartment complex, who is constantly stealing my spot every time I come home from work? Because after dealing with this for 3 months, I feel like I'm losing my mind, and I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I live in the United Kingdom, and I live in an apartment block which contains 6 individual apartments. We have a residents-only car park to the rear of our block with 11 car parking spaces, 6 for each apartment and 5 for visitors. The 6 spaces for each apartment are not physically signposted in the car park, but they are assigned and marked in our individual leases, and the visitor spaces are signposted. We also have to pay for these spaces and their upkeep as part of our service and management fee. And trust me, this will be important later on. Now, the company that manages the block monitors parking via an external video surveillance camera and threatens to fine for any vehicle that is not registered to a resident that doesn't utilize the visitor spaces. I also have a camera fixed inside my apartment that focuses on my designated parking space, which followed an accident that occurred when I first moved in 4 years ago. Now, all 6 apartments are occupied, 2 young families, and the other 4 are either professional couples or singles. Now, my neighbor has been having a regular visitor, and for context, her husband works afternoons from like 2 o'clock until 10 o'clock p.m., and this visitor is always parked in my designated space when I get home from work, anywhere between like 5 and 6:30. A different neighbor has told me that he, the visitor, arrives anywhere between like 2:30 and 3 o'clock, and he remains until 8 o'clock and sometimes 9 o'clock. And this has happened near enough every day for the last like 3 months. I have passed the visitor in the car park on 2 separate occasions in this time, and I politely mentioned that he's parked in a designated space and should instead utilize the signposted visitor spaces. Now, he's always been very polite and apologetic and mentioned that he was just dropping something off, but got sucked into conversation and stayed longer than planned. And trust me, if this had only happened like a handful of times, sure, I can understand that. But as I said, this is almost every day for over a 3-month period now. I've spoken to my neighbor away from her husband about her visitor and asked if she can speak with him about this, and she assured me that she would, but I haven't been able to follow up about this with her at all. It's bothering me that I'm paying for a spot that I can't even park in. So honestly, am I overreacting for like getting upset about this parking space? Because I'm now having to break like a 4-year habit of parking there. Or do I just speak directly with my neighbor again about this? What should I do? Okay, dude, I would lose my mind if someone parked in my spot. I don't care who it is. You get like 1 freebie in my opinion. You get 1 chance to move your car. If I tell you once, congratulations, that's all you're getting. Because I'm either going to tow it if I have the ability to do so, or I'm absolutely going to document it and complain to whoever's in charge. Because someone's got to be in charge of this apartment complex, right? Like whether there's some kind of like front office or the company that like monitors things through cameras. Like, bro, you've got to go to somebody about this at this point, right? Like, I don't think I'm crazy in thinking that. Like, holy crap, this is so annoying. You dealt with this for 3 months and didn't say anything? Dude, I would deal with that for like a day, and then I'd immediately go and be like, oh, I'm absolutely tattling. We're going to the principal. We're all about to have some problems with each other. Because screw that, dude. If I'm paying for that spot, I deserve to use it. You're not going to take that from me just because you're visiting someone. No, screw that. Park in the visitor spot, dude. It's not that hard. So no, you're not the jerk. You're not overreacting. And in my opinion, you're definitely not doing enough, because you could be way more vicious if you want to. And I think it's about time that you started doing that. Am I the jerk or out of line in any way to be expecting my girlfriend to do half the chores of the house we're living in? Because right now it really seems like she doesn't want to do anything, even though it seems like I'm doing a lot more heavy lifting in this department than she is. Here's what's currently happening. Okay, so I've been having arguments with my girlfriend regarding chores for a while, and it just doesn't seem to make any sense. When we started dating, she mentioned how she doesn't want to be a mom to me and wants me to handle myself regarding domestic duties, and I was completely fine with that. I was living on my own when we met and did everything by myself. I literally managed my own life and I had no problem at all. We moved in together and we clashed a fair bit, and we decided it would be best to just assign certain chores and stick with that. When it comes to my girlfriend, she hates being in the kitchen and doesn't want to cook, and she also doesn't like doing the dishes because of her nails. And I thought that was a pretty lame excuse, but whatever. So I just agreed to do everything in the kitchen. That means all the cooking, the dishes, cleaning pans, wiping down the stove and the countertop, etc. Personally, I thought that was a phenomenal phenomenal deal for her, even if she did everything else. She said, okay, you can handle that, and we'll separate everything else in half. We'll split the laundry, we'll split the cleaning of the bathrooms and the toilets, we'll take turns doing grocery shopping, etc. Now, if everything was shared, I would be fine with that, but she wants me to handle the kitchen entirely and split everything else. Her argument is to say, well, you know how much I hate these chores, but I'm willing to split it with you, and that shows how much I want to be a team as I'm not flat out refusing and being difficult. But that literally just doesn't make any sense to me. First of all, if I'm handling the kitchen for the both of us, which is daily by the way, I think it's more than fair for you alone to handle the laundry weekly, or even for example cleaning the bathrooms and the toilets weekly. When I asked her to do my laundry or to iron my clothing or anything like that, she would say, I'm not your maid or your mom, and it's like, what are we talking about? Am I not already being your private chef? Am I not being your private dishwasher? I'm not throwing that in your face because I'm willing to do it for the both of us. Also, frankly speaking, I don't really care if you hate chores. It's part of being an adult. They need to be done, and that's not a good excuse to pin more on your partner just because they're able to deal with it better. It's just so frustrating. I honestly thought this would be a situation where it's like, okay, I do this for the both of us, and then you do this for the both of us, etc., which would be easy, but it's not. And I don't even think I'm being unreasonable at all. In fact, if anything, I think I'm being more than fair. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because I don't know what to do about this. No, your girlfriend's being weird, dude. It seems like there's a double standard here that she doesn't want to admit to, where she's like, okay, I don't want to touch the kitchen, but also I'm not going to be your mom. So you need to do that stuff yourself, but also I'm not going to help you out with anything. It just seems so meticulously jaded in her favor, and that is just obnoxious if you ask me. So sure, she's saying oh, I don't want to be your mom, but it really sounds like she wants you to be her dad. This is really annoying. So no, expecting your girlfriend to do chores if you're living together is not unreasonable. That completely makes sense if you ask me, and I don't think that's completely out of line. The entitled boomers I work with at my job are finally being held accountable for their crappy actions, as a new young supervisor is holding their feet to the fire, forcing them for the first time ever to really do their job in several years of work. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened yesterday, and I've been trying to figure out how to tell it coherently. Basically, the situation is I work in manufacturing. We cut wood, so we have a system that is supposed to suck up all of our sawdust. It then goes outside into filters in a barrel in this outside closet space. So at my work, there's a maintenance support guy who's 70 years old, a safety supervisor that's pushing maybe 65, my supervisor who's maybe 30, and a production supervisor who's in his 50s. Last week, the local fire department did their annual walkthrough, and when they got to our dust collection closet, they found it's full of dust because it leaks over. So now suddenly the safety supervisor and maintenance supervisor think this is a big deal, and yeah, it absolutely is. But here's the part about it that's really important to note. They've known about this for years. The maintenance supervisor is the one who built the system 10 years ago, and they literally built it from the old system. My past two supervisors have been trying for years to get maintenance to do the cleaning and fixing, and we never got a straight answer from the maintenance supervisor because he just doesn't want to do it. We empty it on a regular basis as part of our job, which is fine if you ask me, but we don't have time to stop our work, which also makes the company money, just to do all this cleaning and repairs. The maintenance supervisor got away with not doing it because the previous production supervisor was literally a boomer and simply didn't care about the workers. But now I have a new younger supervisor. When they decided it was a big deal, they tried to get us to do it, but my supervisor pushed back. He went straight to the new production supervisor, and he agreed immediately that maintenance should do maintenance. So now they might get to it next week if they have time, and suddenly it's not so important. Oh, and we have no drinkable water in our building, and we asked for some last summer and still got nothing from this maintenance supervisor. And no, the new production supervisor wasn't happy about that either. And on top of that, the safety supervisor is giving me a hard time, all because I use my own earmuff hearing protection. Because last time I asked him for some, he said he didn't have any, even though he would say, oh, but you can always just ask. But it's oh, suddenly you have some now, but I still have to go to you to get them. But if he really cared about my hearing, then he would go to me and give them to me. But I swear, I simply just didn't have the energy to call him out on it. Oh, and the safety supervisor doesn't like that we plug extension cords into other extension cords. So I pointed out in front of the maintenance supervisor, by the way, that when we have a long cord and it has a cut on the outside of it, maintenance just cuts the cord in half and adds 2 plugs, making it 2 short cords. My supervisor offered to bring them all the short cords in exchange for long ones, and they suddenly said to wait and they might put in some extra outlets for us when they have time. Oh, and the maintenance supervisor, who's 70, he was training a nice hardworking young guy to replace him in the next year, but he suddenly decided that he's going to stay on board for another 4 years, so the good worker quit. I'm honestly so tired of boomers, and I just can't stand this behavior.
Oh man, that sounds exhausting. Literally every single person in this story who's either not doing their job or giving like a backhanded comment or giving you the runaround, we're all in the boomer age, and I'm not trying to stereotype, but holy crap, it might be time to retire or let other people take over. Because this is ineffective, dude, and it's dangerous. You mean to tell me there's an entire closet full of sawdust? Like, that's a fire waiting to happen. That's just one big bundle of, oh my gosh, Smokey the Bear, where are you? Please help put this out. So yeah, the boomers of this story are obnoxious and I would hate to work with them. So I really don't blame the original poster at all for the way that they feel. All of my female friends have suddenly turned their attention towards my husband after he lost a lot of weight and built some muscle, as they've literally implied on more than one occasion that they want to sleep with him, while also going out of their way to physically touch his chest and his arms at any chance they get. And right now, this is making the both of us incredibly uncomfortable, because we seriously don't know how to make this stop. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where you can find out very quickly which one of your friends wants to sleep with your husband, all because he lost a little bit of weight. Like, holy crap, this first story is a weird one. So strap in for this one. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and click the bell to turn on notifications. Let's get started. Okay, so my husband and I have been together for 6 years. He's always been a big guy, but in the last 2 years, he's gained a lot of weight. He carried it well, but he was napping all the time. He had sleep apnea and was really slowing down. He had a blood test that said he was pre-diabetic, and his doctor was worried about his heart. And it was here that my husband freaked out. He literally reformulated how he ate and started walking. He then went from 400 pounds all the way down to 250 in a really short order. He then stalled out for a bit, and then one day he came home and said he joined a CrossFit gym. And now he's built muscle and became really athletic. His big goal this year is running a series of 5K races and doing a crazy workout later on. So basically, he's done a complete 180. People who haven't seen him in a while are stunned. In the past, my husband was incredibly self-conscious. He would wear layers, dark clothing, he would have a pillow over his stomach, etc. And yet, it has completely transformed our lives in that he no longer worries me about whether or not he's going to be passing away in his sleep due to sleep apnea. It has also completely transformed his self-confidence. He's the same sweet guy I married, only now he's a lot more able to tackle things and face challenges. And on the whole, his transformation has improved our lives and our marriage. Years ago, friends would have never looked at him twice. A few made really hurtful comments about his weight, and those same friends are now violating boundaries left and right. I'll meet him at the gym and young girls will be actively flirting with my husband, despite him not reciprocating. I've had a woman I've been friends with for years tell me that my husband has become hot and she's jealous. Recently, we went to a party and I bought my husband a button down to wear, and he kept it open about halfway, and my closest friend put her hand on his tank top and his chest just to feel his muscles. People think that just because he's lost weight, he's fair game suddenly. People make passes at him in front of me, and my husband doesn't lead people on or engage this, but I find it so incredibly disrespectful. People I've known for years think it's funny to be overtly physical with them, and it's even made him uncomfortable. We're going out today with friends and someone jokingly asked if my hottie was coming with me. And yet years ago, they would not have thought twice about his presence, and suddenly it's all they want to talk about. I also find the questions intrusive about how our marital life has changed, because it is literally nobody's business. So right now I'm really struggling. I never worried about this before his weight loss. Of all the problems to have, this really is a minor one, but I find my friends violating boundaries to be really sinister. And on top of that, I also find it really insulting. I'm hurt by them constantly making weird comments or touching him. When I say something to people, they get super defensive, and it's always just a joke or a misunderstanding. What should I do? Okay, holy crap, these women and these people are not your friends, dude. Because think about it for a second, they have actively been talking crap about your husband for years, making fun of his weight and all this other stuff, saying these terrible things about him, and then suddenly, once he's lost weight and built muscle, suddenly they're like, oh wow, look at him. Even going as far as touching his chest, like that is disgusting. I don't care who you are, that is so inappropriate. So in my opinion, I think it might be time to like pump the brakes and find new friends. Like I totally understand how you're like, dude, I don't want to lose my social circle. But guess what? Your social circle is a bunch of vultures who would love to scoop your husband up and probably sleep with him, all because he lost some weight and gained some muscle. Like, what are we talking about right now? So yeah, I would be getting out of that so fast it's not even funny, because these people do not have your best interest in mind, and that is devastating in my opinion. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say.
Am I the jerk for not wanting my girlfriend to travel with me, all because she is such a picky eater, to the extent that literally there's a meltdown anytime food is mentioned, as she is so strict about what she will and will not eat? Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, my girlfriend says she can't eat any vegetables, and honestly, just eating in general is a challenge. Right now, we have an agreement that I can go out and eat at a restaurant alone once a month, because I just need the ability to eat whatever I want without some kind of consequence. But for her, she can't even pick like lettuce or a tomato or an onion off of her hamburger. It needs to be a patty with cheese only. She can't eat street tacos, but instead just the tacos from Taco Bell. And right now, with all that in mind, I'm really concerned about traveling. And I've received the chance to travel more, and I just want to be able to eat without overthinking everything. Because each day, whenever I order food, it becomes about whether or not she can eat anything off the menu, and I find that I can't even take her to restaurants without a children's menu. I've learned that restaurants with a children's menu will have at least something that she can eat. So seriously, I feel like a huge jerk, but I just can't do this anymore. I just want to be able to pick for myself without some kind of meltdown happening afterwards. So am I the jerk? Because right now I really just don't know what to do. Okay, dude, I completely understand where you're coming from because this is weird. For reference, his girlfriend is 36 and so is he. And dude, like you would expect at that age, you would at least be willing to like, I don't know, be a bit more flexible. Because what the original poster is describing is basically having a girlfriend who acts like a toddler anytime food's mentioned. Where it's like, no, I can't have a hamburger with lettuce on it. I don't want to pick that off. It's like, dude, just take it off your sandwich and then bam, you're done. Or even, and this is a crazy thought, try it with lettuce on it. You might actually like it. Like, I don't know, unless you have like some dietary restriction where it's like, oh no, I physically can't have this because I'll be sick, then in my opinion, I don't think there's any excuse for not just trying new food. At least try once to see if you might like it. Like, who knows, you might actually enjoy it. But for me, the weirdest part about this is the fact that, oh, okay, she doesn't like to eat these foods, which somehow turns into, well, you can't have them either. Like, bro, what are we doing right now? If I want to eat some street tacos, I should be allowed to do so. Just because you can't eat it doesn't mean I can't. Why can't I order my food and then we can go to Taco Bell later if you really want that? Which, by the way, Taco Bell is going to be way worse than what you got on the street, in my opinion. Like, I don't know, it just seems very selfish and very like, no, you can't have that because I can't. And like, dude, I can't stand that kind of energy. That's like incredibly annoying. So no, you're not the jerk for not wanting to travel with your girlfriend. She sounds a little annoying in this regard, and I think it makes sense that you wouldn't want a picky eater coming along with you. Am I the jerk for refusing to give my uncle any of the money I got from my inheritance? As he really did not take it well when I told him no. Here's how it happened. Okay, so here's the situation that's currently going on in my life. I lost my grandpa almost a year ago, and he basically raised me for a huge chunk of my childhood because my parents traveled a lot for work. We were really close, and when he passed away, he left me enough money in the will to knock out my student loans and have a real shot at a down payment on a condo. He explicitly wrote that the money was for me to give me a proper running start, and those are actually the words he said. Now, my uncle, who's my dad's younger brother, got a smaller cash portion and the cabin, while my dad got the house, so nobody got nothing. Well, fast forward to last month, and I mentioned at a family thing that I was starting to look at condos, and it was here that my uncle lit up and congratulated me. 4 days later, he called asking if I could loan him 20 grand out of the inheritance, just so he can get through a rough patch on some business stuff. He said it was short term, maybe 6 months in total, and that grandpa would have wanted family to look out for one another. Well, when he asked for this, I said no. I told him grandpa made it really specific in the will what the money was for, and I was not comfortable pulling a chunk out for something that wasn't in the plan. Well, to make a long story short, he did not take that well at all. He said I was cold. He said that family takes care of family, and said that grandpa would be disappointed in me. But just so we're clear, he definitely wouldn't. Grandpa would be furious that his own son called his grandkid for money 4 months after the will cleared. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I really just don't know how to handle this. No, you're not the jerk. Your uncle's stupid, dude. He knows exactly what he's trying to do. He's trying to go to his niece and be like, oh, can I please have $20,000, please? Oops, it's just for business stuff for 6 months. My bad. Like, no, I don't care who you are. That sounds incredibly sketchy, and I also would not give that out. And you saying no, by the way, is not some kind of like slight against the family. Sure, family helps out family, but it doesn't mean I have to give up some of my inheritance to do that. There are so many more ways you can help out family besides giving out money, which this is exactly what that's about. Like, let's not get it twisted. The uncle in this story only wants a pretty paycheck, which I can almost guarantee he will never pay back. So yeah, I think he made the right choice. I also would do the same thing, because you've got it right. Your grandfather would be really pissed off that his son is asking his grandkid for money. Am I overreacting for being upset at this new girl after she started a fight because I have a nearly empty fridge at my apartment? Because after the fact, she's trying to act like nothing happened, but I'm still really hurt by this and I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I just started dating this girl nearly a month ago, and everything's been going really well so far. It's my first relationship
relationship after my ex of 5 years cheated on me and left when I confronted her, where I took a year to heal and finally felt ready to date again. The first few were misses until I met this new girl. Now, for a bit of context for this story, it was her first time spending the night at my place. I cooked us dinner, we sipped wine and chatted. Then the next morning, she said she wanted to address something. She said it's really immature and unattractive that I don't have a lot of food or things in my fridge. Now, mind you, I live alone in a luxury apartment. I make really good money, relatively speaking. I also live directly across the street from a grocery store. Like, I can lock my door and be inside the grocery store within 2 minutes on foot. I explained that I don't see the point in buying a bunch of food and random things when I realized I was wasting a lot and throwing a bunch of stuff away. So I only grab things I need when I know I'll need them. I always have condiments, snacks, and other common essentials, yet I also have some beer, wine, and spirits in my fridge too. She said it was childish and started attacking me, saying I live like a divorced dad or a college kid. I felt like I had good counters to her arguments, yet she still eventually just said, "Grow up," and then left my place. I then texted her later and said it was a little ridiculous to attack me and storm out like that, especially over an understocked fridge. She then said to me, "You need to grow a pair and stop living like you're broke." Well, we've been talking today and it's almost like the fight never happened. But honestly, I'm still a bit weary and I don't know if I should just let it go. Or should I see this as a red flag that should tell me more stupid fights could follow? I mean, she didn't apologize, but she also hasn't really brought it up since. Now, one final note is that I always buy beef, chicken, vegetables, and fruits, etc. And I also do this when I know there's people coming over, or there's like a specific dish I want to make for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. There's been a few times I realized I needed a few more ingredients that I didn't have. And yet, like I said, it's less than 2 minutes to walk there from my apartment door, and they're open from like 6 in the morning until 10 at night. And being in my 30s, I honestly don't ever see a time where I'll randomly need something I didn't think about past 10 o'clock. I'm pretty well organized and a well thought out person, and I've never really had people over past 10 o'clock unexpectedly, where I would be completely crap out of luck for the night. I also have a bunch of food and items in my cabinets and cupboards that don't die as quickly as things in my fridge. I only avoid buying things that expire quickly or will need to be frozen to be preserved. I mean, in my mind, why have stuff sitting in my fridge or freezer when I can get it fresh the moment I know I'll want it? So, am I overreacting for being kind of upset over this? Or does she have a valid point at all? Because right now, I really just don't know what to do. Okay, this is a giant red flag. I understand that you're like, man, I'm finally getting into dating, I found a girl I like, and this might be someone I can spend some time with, but dude, this is some weird behavior. She literally started a fight over like how much food was in your fridge, and then she stormed out like a child and said, "You need to grow a pair. Stop living like you're broke. I can't believe you." And then the next day she's like, "Hey, how's it going? What's going on?" Acting like nothing happened. Like, what are you talking about? So in my opinion, I think you have every right to be upset. Also, I think it is so important that people apologize when they're wrong. Just letting things go and letting it simmer in the background is only going to cause problems. So like, I really think addressing it would be really important, and how she reacts to that confrontation would really determine whether or not I want to be with her. Because good lord, she literally started a fight over nothing. And I don't know about you, but that is not the kind of person I would want to be with long term. My entitled sister is demanding that her gaming friends from New Zealand be in attendance for my mom's wedding, despite the fact that my mom does not know these people and doesn't want them showing up, putting all of us in a situation where I really just don't know what's about to happen. Because overall, my sister is a little bit unhinged and truly anything can happen. Here's what's happening. Okay, so this took me a bit by surprise. Just to preface, I do love my sister, but I've realized that I do not really like her either. For a bit of context about our life, my mother's getting married later this year, and my dad passed away at the beginning of last year after a long battle with dementia. They were married for 50 years, and from what I could tell or see, mostly they were always happy. My mom was obviously broken and lonely, and if you know dementia, you know that it takes the biggest toll on those close to the person with it. But my mom really never backed down, and only when it was impossible for her to take care of my dad herself did she finally give in and move him into a care facility. So after my dad passed away, my mom found a guy about her age that came out of a broken marriage and who was also just looking for companionship. They really do make each other happy, and I said from the first day when she told me about him that I'm really glad for her. It is still really weird, but I'm happy that she can be happy at this stage of her life. They're beginning life together, they're going on holidays and camping, and just not living alone in an old age home or a big empty house. They are now sharing the last years of their life and have decided to get married later this year. And again, it still feels really weird to talk about my mother's upcoming wedding. Anyways, I spoke to her earlier this week, and my mother and her fiance live in the same city as
as me and my family, so I see them really often. I've gotten to know the man and I like him a lot, and he really makes her happy, and they get along really well. And honestly, that is all I want from my mom at this point. Happiness and to not be alone. So they're planning to host the wedding at the house they live in now. It is by no means a mansion, but it is big enough to host about 50 people for a garden wedding. Now, I also have two sisters. One of them lives in another country, and the other one lives on the other side of the country, which is about a 2-hour flight or like a full day drive. Ever since COVID, I have seen this sister exactly twice. Once when they came to visit at the end of the year before my dad died, and once at the funeral. And I must mention that she has some serious agoraphobia or anxiety with being around people ever since COVID. She is seeing a therapist from what I know, but I don't think the therapist is helping, but rather enabling, because I'm pretty sure she encouraged my sister to get an emotional support dog. And to put it bluntly, this dog is a demon. It is a mixed breed of Chihuahua and Devil Spawn. The first time they came down to visit us, the dog came with her. They, meaning my sister, her husband, and the dog, stayed with us for one night before moving to an Airbnb with a demon spawn. That dog has issues that needs emotional support more than what he gives emotional support himself. But hey, I'm just an outside observer and not a psychologist, so I don't really know what I'm talking about. I mean, what do I know besides the fact that the dog barked and snarled at and chased my kids in my home? The dog pooped and peed on the floor in the kids' room, and then my sister picked him up in a baby voice and coddled him, and then went into the guest room where they were staying and didn't come out until they left the next day. The rest of the week that they were here and stayed at the Airbnb, I went to visit them once to help my mom with some paperwork, and the dog had to be locked in a room because it does not do well around strange people. And it's like, fine, I get it. Dogs can just be like that sometimes. But not if they're supposed to, like, I don't know, emotionally support a person who's afraid of being around people. Well, a few months later, my dad passed away and my sister and her husband came down along with her demon spawn. This time, she actually managed to have a conversation with me and see my kids. And mind you, this is the first time she came down. And I think it was the second time she met my eldest and the first time she met my youngest. In their minds, she's just another lady and not an aunt. My other sister that lives in the United Kingdom knows my kids way better, and they love her, her husband, and her two boys. Even though my nephews are much older than them, they made the effort to get to know my boys, and my mother did as well. So that's some background to kind of set up what's about to happen. My younger sister, who is the one with the demon spawn and the social issues, currently works in IT, and her husband also works in IT. They are the quintessential IT people, and they hardly ever leave their house. They work from home and have a setup in their living room with 2 televisions and 2 gaming consoles next to each other, and I know this not because I visited them, but because our parents went once and my mom told me all about it afterwards. So in their gaming life, they've made friends all over the world. I support this for them because that is their choice and they feel comfortable for this. Now, with the upcoming nuptials for my mom, my sister insisted to invite her gaming friends, you know, all the way from New Zealand, to attend the wedding to support her. My mother has never met these people, mind you, and I also do not think my sister has ever met them in person either. They're coming over especially for the wedding and then having a holiday as well, at least that's what I hope. But my mom said they can't be in the wedding because it's held at their house, which can only accommodate so many people. Like, they physically cannot add an extra 2. To even do that in the first place, they will have to actively exclude some of their own family and friends just to accommodate my sister's unknown friends from the other side of the world. And yes, I seriously wish I was making this up. Now, when my mom told me, I just burst out laughing, and I literally could not believe someone would be so entitled as to invite their friends to accompany them to someone else's wedding. The original idea was for my sister and her husband to stay in one of the guest rooms at the house, and when my mom said that the friends from New Zealand could not stay in the other one, as it is for the groom's family that's also coming down, my sister actually started to get pissed off. And when my mom had a video call with her, she just sat there and didn't even speak. And mind you, this is a grown woman, and I really have to stress that. My sister then later relented and said that they will just get an Airbnb for the 4 of them for the wedding. And yet, my mom had to reiterate again that they will not be able to come, as the guest list is already full and they do not know these people. I spoke to my other sister about it yesterday, and she joked that she knows a guy down at the local shop that she would like to invite. You know, I'm sure we could space something out for him. I'm honestly waiting to see what transpires from this, whether she will see sense or double down. Because trust me, the popcorn is popping and I am definitely expecting some kind of show. Yeah, that is really weird. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna invite my gaming friends to your wedding. Don't worry, they're gonna stay with us. It's gonna be fun. But the mom is like, wait, you mean my house? They're gonna stay in my house? No, that's not gonna happen. Are you crazy? Because seriously, what is your sister thinking, dude? That is so incredibly selfish. Your sister knows there's limited space, but from the sounds of it, she doesn't really care. She could give a crap about that. She just wants to have her emotional support friends. Which, by the way, that's not emotional support friends. That's just friends. Any good friend would be like, I'm here here for you. I care about you. Let's get things going. And like, then they would be there for you. Not some like, oh, I'm a designated emotional support friend, which is kind of what she's making it out to be. Like, that's kind of weird in this situation, and it just doesn't make sense. So yeah, I'm sure the original poster is in for a show of some kind, because I'm sure your sister is going to be very entertaining with whatever she chooses to do. And I'm right there with you. Hopefully she sees reason and says, okay, friends can't come to wedding, but we'll hang out afterwards, because that is the only way to handle this. Am I the jerk for selling my ex's furniture, all because he refused to support our son after I broke up with him? Because right now he's pissed off, but honestly, I had no other choice. And now I don't know if I made a mistake or not. Here's how it all went down. Okay, for a bit of context, I have a 2-year-old son with my ex, and we broke up 6 months ago after years of problems. Ever since the breakup, he's been angry and keeps saying that I ruined him and that I'm the problem by leaving him. We agreed that our son would stay with me after I refused to have him stay with his grandparents, and then he promised to help me financially. And at first he sent small amounts, but then suddenly he stopped completely. Whenever I asked for money for food, school needs, or medical needs, he would say, "You chose to leave, so handle it yourself," while also saying that he doesn't have any money to give. Meanwhile, he still had some furniture stored in my garage from when we lived together. We're talking stuff like a couch, a TV stand, a table, and some bed frames. I asked him multiple times to please come and pick them up, but he kept ignoring me and saying that he'd get to them later. Well, last month our son got sick and I was short on money for medicine and groceries. And after another argument where he said that he again wouldn't support and doesn't have money or even care to look for it, I decided that I'm just gonna sell some of the furniture and use the money for our son's expenses. And now after he found out what I did, he is furious, calling me a thief and telling everyone I'm bitter and using our child as an excuse for revenge. Some of my friends are saying that if the furniture really was his, then I had no right to sell it no matter what. But other people are saying that if he won't help his child, then guess what? You forced my hand. And yes, I know, selling it was drastic. But I was desperate and I was tired of begging while he punished our son because he was mad at me. So seriously, am I really the jerk here if you consider all the details? Because I really didn't know what else to do and I'm not sure what to make of this. No, you're not the jerk. This is your ex getting exactly what he deserves. I really hope you sold all of it too, by the way, and with a smile on your face. Because good lord, this guy literally just doesn't care. He seriously said, oh, I'm not gonna help you out. I don't have any money to give. And even if I did, I wouldn't give it to you. But it's like, dude, it's not for me, stupid. It's for our son. Like, what a piece of garbage. Like, you really can't put your differences aside and be like, okay, our 2-year-old son is sick and I need to help him out. Like, what does he expect? A doctor's note to prove that, yeah, our son is sick, stupid. Give me some money. So no, what you did is for the greater good of your son. And in my opinion, I think your ex deserves way worse than this. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg of the karma he absolutely deserves. My entitled friend is literally trying to invite herself onto my vacation with my family, saying that I need to cancel my plans to cater to her and her family, even though we literally already spent the money to get ready for this trip in the first place. And despite me telling her no, I don't want to do that with her, she's now pissed off that I'm not wanting to create memories with her family, even though I know for a fact my friend is going to ruin the vibe and her family is only going to be a headache to deal with. And right now, I really just don't know what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where your vacation plans get hijacked by your obnoxious friend and their bratty kid. Because this first story is super frustrating. I would hate to have a friend like this. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and click the bell to turn on notifications. That way you never miss a video. Let's get started. Okay, to try and keep things short, we're a couple in our early 30s and our daughter is 4 years old. She is a great kid, but we've also tried really hard to parent her a specific way, which means no screen time on most days, normalizing spending tons of time outside, and reading and on hobbies. She's gone on hikes and camping trips with us, and that took a lot of effort. We hyped up hiking as a household, and she actually does really well on trips. Now, she is a kid after all, so we go through a lot of tears and meltdowns, but she's genuinely able to participate. Well, we decided that this summer, we want to go on an international trip to a destination that's known for outdoors activities. I was talking about this vacation to my friend who has a 6-year-old, and my friend immediately got excited about how great the plans were. Then she immediately started talking about how great it were if she came along with her family. I told her it's just a family thing for us, and we already have most of our planning done, so we can't really accommodate her. She then told me that we could still cancel our lodging and go together, and then when I said no, she said it won't be a problem, and they can just book their own. Seeing where this was going, I then firmly said, I don't want to go with you and your family. For reference, her 6-year-old is not used to hikes and spending time outdoors, so it will be a really hard trip for him. My friend tends to ask our group to adjust activities to something kid-centric if she can't find a babysitter to help out, which is totally fine if it's something local, like I don't care about that, but it doesn't align with how
I want to travel because I already know her kid won't do well with the activities we have chosen. Selfishly, her kid also gets a lot more screen time and a lot more leeway and gets what he wants after tantrums, which makes our lives way harder after a prolonged period of our kids hanging out. I gently told her that we want to do things that probably wouldn't be very fun for her kid, and she said she's sure that he will do great, but we can adjust if needed. And at that point, I told her I'm not adjusting anything. It's our trip. It's a big expense, and my husband and I want to do what we already have planned out. If she chooses to go at the same time, she can do whatever she wants, but we really will not be seeing her there unless it's exactly what we had already planned or otherwise aligns with our family needs. Well, after I explain all this, she's now mad that I don't want to make this into a great experience for the kids, and that I'm saying no to creating great memories together because she remembers very fondly a trip her family took with some family friends when she was a child, and apparently she wants to give the same thing to her own. So am I the jerk for shutting her down and saying I don't want to go on vacation with her? Because honestly, I don't know what else to say. Okay, I have to say this first and foremost. Obviously, you're not the jerk, but holy crap, the actual gall of this lady to be like, oh, you're going on a trip? What if we go along with you? That's right, I'm gonna invite myself on your vacation. Like, dude, you are a toxic idiot if you do that, dude. Don't invite yourself on someone else's vacation plans. Like, she's really trying to be like, oh, just cancel your lodging. Let's do this together. And it's like, no, dude, chances are I can't even get the money back for the stupid deposit. Like, holy crap, what are we talking about? Just cancel your lodging. Because you can bet this lady's not gonna pay for a single dime of that. And this is why, for me at least, I don't really share any like vacation plans, because even the hint of something like this happening is like enough to make my skin crawl. Like, dude, you save up all this money, you get ready with your family, you're like, okay, let's go to this destination vacation, only to then have this busybody be like, oh, we're coming too, and we're gonna make sure your plans are changed. Like, dude, what are we doing? Like, get lost and get your own plans. Just because I'm going on vacation doesn't mean you're coming along with me. That's weird, especially for the things you're doing. Like, you're 100% right, and I think you're clocking this exactly as it's gonna happen. You're gonna get on this mountain, the 6-year-old from this lady is gonna be super miserable and complaining, and then your friend's gonna look at you and be like, we need to do something else, my kid's not happy. And then just like that, all your plans are gonna go down the drain, all because she was being selfish and invited herself on your vacation. So dude, I think you're doing it right. You're shutting her down right from the get-go. You're saying, no, you're not coming on vacation with us, and you're making it very clear that you don't want this, which is honestly the best thing to do here, because look, if she wants to have some kind of like great memory as friends and as family, then plan something else, dude. Don't hijack my vacation with the expectation that I'm gonna change my plans for your stupid kid. That's incredibly rude, incredibly toxic, and completely over the line. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. I'm convinced that my date literally stole money from me on Venmo, as I discovered $150 missing from my account, as well as multiple failed attempts to log into my bank account on my phone. And I honestly don't know what to do with this information, especially because this guy is getting super defensive when I confronted him about it. Here's what's going on. I'm a 24-year-old female, and I met this guy about the same age as me on Bumble, and we decided to go out and get some coffee. A few days afterwards, he came over to my place and watched a movie, and I ended up falling asleep. Before that, he asked multiple times things that I thought were just out of curiosity, like what do I do for work and what kind of assets do I have, which was kind of weird in retrospect. And naturally, we both used our phones next to each other, so I assume he saw my passcode. He left as I was sleeping, and when I woke up, I noticed there were multiple failed attempts to log into my bank account on my phone. Then I noticed a transfer on my Venmo app for like $150 at around the time that he was at my place. Now, I had the intuition that it was him because I couldn't explain it any other way, so I called him a few times, and when he responded, he was really angsty and said, "Why are you calling me this much? I'm sleeping." I then explained the situation to him, and guess what? He immediately got defensive. He called me an idiot and asked for my bank account number to send the money to me because according to him, $150 is nothing to him, and apparently I'm blowing things out of proportion. He also says he doesn't have the app Venmo, and he still hasn't sent me the money. I reported to the app, but I don't think anything will ever come of it. And yes, I do realize I made multiple mistakes, but I also never interacted with people who would act like that. So am I overreacting here? Because honestly, I'm not sure how else to explain the missing money, and I don't know what to do.
Okay, I gotta be honest, my knee-jerk reaction here was to say, wow, this person's an idiot. You fell asleep next to somebody you don't even know, and then you wake up to multiple attempts to him trying to get into your bank account, and then you see that he stole $150 out of your Venmo account. Like, that would be horrifying, because there's only one person who would do that, and that is literally the guy sitting next to you who probably saw your passcode, and who was obviously getting your phone while you were asleep. But there's more to this story, because the original poster said that they didn't decide to sleep. They felt really drowsy suddenly, and then just kind of passed out, which is even scarier, like holy crap, because that kind of leads me to believe that this guy maybe slipped something in your drink or did something to make you fall asleep, if you know what I mean, which I don't think is completely outside the realm of possibility. Like, this guy's already getting defensive about him obviously stealing from you. Who's to say he wouldn't try to slip something in like what you're eating or what you're drinking just to try and, like, I don't know, rob you, which in this case is not nearly as bad as what could have happened. Like, this could have been a lot worse. I think you got off very lucky here. So no, I don't think you're overreacting. I don't think you're totally to blame, but dude, you have got to be way more careful in the future. If you get the money back, fantastic. Get it and then block this guy. But I would be really surprised if this guy sends back anything, because he sounds like a scumbag, and this is honestly not someone you want to date. Am I the jerk for allegedly exposing my parents and basically explaining to my sisters that my girlfriend's family is way more of a family than they are? Because right now, all of my parents' misdeeds towards me have pretty much been brought out into the open, and it's starting to backfire against me in a way that I honestly didn't expect, because right now I don't know what else to do. Here's what's currently happening. Okay, so I'm a 21-year-old male, and I've had a few rough years with my parents, all due to financial issues, which has finally come to a head due to my older sisters now being aware of the situation. For a bit of context, my parents have more or less cut me off financially for the past 3 years, ending my dental completely and being at the lowest tier of medical and car insurance, with me still paying for everything. I've also had to drop out of university, and I go to my state's community college due to not having any financial support. My college fund, as my parents would put it, was like $200 my mom took out of my bank account and put into a high-yield savings account, which only grew like $70. But I now live with my girlfriend of 2 years and her family. Now, this has caused tension with my parents, as they've been retired ever since I was 16 years old, partially because one of them just didn't want to work anymore, and they've recently gone on multiple first-class trips to Hawaii, Peru, and China, while also saying that they're completely unable to help out, saying instead, oh, it's their turn now. Recently, we had a family gathering where my sisters asked about how university was going, and I reminded them that I had to drop out and that community college is fine, but it's really difficult due to having to work full-time alongside it. My oldest sister heard this, and she was confused, and she then asked my parents why haven't they helped out. This then caused my mom to dodge the question, saying they're on a tight budget and a schedule, but I also excused them as saying, well, you guys didn't get a college fund, so it's not like this is a new thing, right? But actually, this was new. My mom had matched whatever money my two sisters saved for college, while my oldest sister had assistance from her dad, who's from my mom's previous marriage. My parents didn't tell my sister any of this, mostly because they just never asked, in which my sister thought I was getting similar treatment. Now, I will admit I got a bit carried away after learning this, and I started telling my sisters all that has happened, with me dropping out, routinely giving plasma just to make some money, joining the military, which is an entirely different story in and of itself, and working full-time for the past 2 years. I then brought my girlfriend into this, as her family has actually even set up a house for us, while my mom has basically done nothing but give me the number of a real estate agent friend so she can get experience. This left my sister upset with my mom, and my mom being upset with me for painting them as villains. They have since tried to make up for it by offering to fully pay off my car or helping with a home loan, but I've refused them all out of spite. However, the rest of my family is saying that I'm in the wrong for airing out my dirty laundry and needlessly causing drama in the family to get back at my mom. My girlfriend does back me up on this, but has started to say that she didn't like me bringing her family up, as now my mom is even more against her. So am I really in the wrong here? Like, did I do something so irredeemable that it is somehow my fault all this is blowing up? Because I really just don't know what to do here. Okay, in my opinion, you have no obligation to keep any of this a secret. Why should you save face for your parents who clearly are not taking care of you? Like, why should any of this be kept a secret? You're not obligated to like save face for these people. They're obviously not helping you out and they're not taking care of you. So why not be honest about it to your sisters? Like, if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be honest. I would tell pretty much anybody who asked about this and be like, yeah, here's exactly what's going on. That's not you starting drama. That's you just being honest. And if your parents don't like that, then hey, maybe step up for once. Maybe be just a little bit more caring for your son who's obviously struggling, because it's pretty obvious they have favoritism towards your sisters and they just don't care about your well-being. And honestly, that sucks, and hopefully it all works out for you.
My boyfriend wants to move in just so he can pay off his debts, but at this point, I really just don't think there's any benefit to me dating him, and I'm seriously considering breaking up with him, because at this point, I don't know what else to do. Here's what's currently happening. Okay, so we've been together for 4 years, and he's always been financially struggling, despite having like $250,000 sitting in crypto that he simply won't touch until the next bull run. We have great chemistry, but I have way more than him financially. He's always crying about debt and not having enough money and wanting a change for his life, but his only change that he has ever done is work extra hours at work while I'm doing multiple things to gain income, not including my job. When I met him, he was $25,000 in debt, and now he's $50,000 in debt, and he says he wants to move in with me to help him pay down his debt. He says he wants to pay it all off in a year, and when I ask him what his game plan is to do that, he says it's me moving in to save him money and me renting out my 3 homes on Airbnb. He has a son of his own, and most recently when I've gone over to his house, it's messy and cluttered. And he says it's because he's so busy working and he has no help at all. But here's the thing, I have a son as well, but I have a feeling this is going to greatly benefit him as he will have live-in help to cook and clean while also paying his debt. He makes about $5,000 more than me yearly and says that when I move in, we'll live on one income. And I'm just like, okay, how? When you're like barely making yours on your own. I live very comfortably because I live below my means. And before he realized he was in so much debt, there were Amazon packages and purchases made just because they were on sale, or it was something he absolutely had to have. For reference, I'm 41 and he's 36. I want to break up at this point because all I see for my future is helping him, as well as struggling and just not really getting any benefit for me in the long run. So what do you guys think? Because right now I don't know what else to do. Holy crap, this guy is absolutely a deadbeat. This guy doesn't want to move in together because he wants to pay off his debt. He wants to move in together because he can't pay off his debt. He has no money management skill. Like, I guarantee you that debt's gonna go up the second you guys move in together. And now you've got an extra person who's not taking care of the house in your home. Like, holy crap, all that mess and clutter, guess what? It's gonna come to your house. And then you're gonna be like, oh my god, I wish I never let this guy move in here. So if I was in your shoes and I was dating someone like this, dude, I would kick them to the curb. I would never stick with them. There's no way I'm gonna date that. This guy has literally doubled his debt since you guys started dating, and he refuses to clean up his life. Like, literally, that is so gross. I understand working all the time, but you really can't take like 30 minutes to just clean up the kitchen or like, I don't know, do something about the dining room that's overflowing with garbage. Seriously, there's no excuse. Like, just take the time and do it. It really is not that hard. So yeah, I would break up with him because he could do way better than this guy. My girlfriend keeps hanging out with guys who clearly want her for the wrong reasons, especially a guy who kissed her on the cheek while she was drunk. And now I feel like I'm at a crossroads because I definitely know we established these boundaries early on, and it really seems like my girlfriend doesn't respect it or is even trying to live up to it. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Okay, I need some honest advice because I'm not sure where to go from here. On our anniversary, I was traveling back home from abroad. During that time, my girlfriend texted me saying she was very drunk and that some guy who's around 7 years older than her kissed her on the cheek. She was at a bar with friends and they joined a group of guys. That situation really hurt me a lot, but I chose to forgive her and move forward from there. Well, about 3 months later, I went abroad again. And one day she told me that the same group of guys invited her and her friend over to a barbecue. And guess what? The same guy who kissed her would be there. And she admitted that he shows interest in her. And honestly, it seems like the others do too. She then asked if I was okay with her going, and I said, do what you want. But I think that was a mistake. I didn't want to control her, even though I was uncomfortable. They didn't go that day, but the next day she went to the same bar again, joined the same group of guys, and later went to their apartment to keep drinking. And now I'm stuck. On one hand, she hasn't really admitted to doing anything beyond that, but on the other hand, I feel like she keeps putting herself in situations that cross my boundaries. I'm not trying to control her, but I also feel like this is disrespectful to our relationship. I mean, at the beginning of our relationship, we clearly discussed boundaries regarding opposite gender interactions, as well as situations we might not want to be in. We were fully aligned at the time, and we agreed on what is and isn't acceptable for both of us in a committed relationship. The issue is that recently she's been repeatedly putting herself in situations that directly go against previously agreed boundaries, including situations she herself said that she would not be comfortable with if the roles were reversed. From my side, I've been trying to respect her freedom and avoid being controlling, but at the same time, I feel like the mutual expectations we had at the beginning are no longer being respected equally. Also, when we are long distance, problems like this tend to appear and escalate, and right now the relationship feels unstable, and she has said that she's not willing to discuss or work on these issues until we meet again in person. So seriously, what do I do here? Because I really just don't know how to handle this. Okay, dude, your girlfriend is doing this on purpose, or she's like already cheating on you. I've got to be honest, like this really does sound super sketchy. If she cared about you, she would not be going out of her way to hang out with these guys, or even be around the guy that kissed her on the cheek. Like, what is she doing? She's almost like setting up the scenario where like, yeah, this guy could make a move on her, you know, where she's drunk and vulnerable, but she's not doing anything to protect herself. She's just like, okay, well, I guess if it happens, it happens. And that is super toxic, dude. And that is absolutely going to lead to her cheating on you. Some accident's going to happen and she's going to be all crying and be like, I don't know how it happened. But it's like, yeah, dude, I can absolutely explain how it happened. You put yourself in situations with guys who are clearly hitting on you, who clearly think you're attractive and want to get with you. So it's like, why would you ever be surprised if that actually does happen? So for me, this would be a deal breaker unless like some serious changes happen almost immediately. And I would also reiterate those boundaries as soon as possible, even if it is through text messaging or whatever means you have available. Like, dude, I'm not going to wait till I get home in person. I'm going to say it now. This is important, dude. Like, you can't do that to me because otherwise you guys might as well not be in a relationship, which if it keeps going in the way that it's going, I can kind of see that happening pretty much regardless. My partner of 5 years literally has beef with people everywhere she goes. And after dealing with this for so long, I'm honestly exhausted and I don't know what to do about it. Here's what's going on. Okay, we've been together for like 5 years now, and I've got to admit, she's always done this, but I just kind of blew it off because I know she just struggles with insecurity and had a rough childhood. And while she did grow up extremely well off, she did grow up with a very volatile parent. But now what she's doing is almost causing problems everywhere we go. For example, we were at the bar having what I thought was a great time, but suddenly she gets upset at me for not defending her honor. And I'm really confused, so I just ask her, okay, what does that mean? Well, apparently she perceived that the woman next to us was glaring at her, and she wanted me to stand up to her and call her out for it. But I had no idea if this was even true. Things like this happen all the time, by the way. It's like she scans the crowd and waits for someone to do something that she perceives as like against her, and then wants me to defend her honor. And it's always stupid stuff that usually has like an innocent explanation. She has done it with my friends and family before too, even blowing up at them a few times over misunderstandings. She doesn't know how to apologize or take accountability, but instead just says it's their fault for setting her off, like someone accidentally bumping into her, or we'll have a perfectly pleasant interaction and she'll swear up and down that they were secretly being jerks. She tells me that I need to live in the real world and stop assuming positive intentions, and honestly, I'm just exhausted. She has this thing about loyalty. She's obsessed with flashy shows of loyalty, and I feel like she's constantly testing me. So seriously, how do I get her to understand that not everybody's out to get her? Because I am at a loss and I don't know what to do here. Okay, holy crap, this sounds exhausting. Because yeah, not everybody's out to get her. That is a weird assumption. And sure, this might be something you brush off early on in the relationship, but dude, after 5 years, literally 5 years of her always having problems with people, like holy crap, who hurt her in the past? Somebody did something that made her feel incredibly insecure. So now she's got to be like, oh, I'm going to push everybody away. Everyone's always trying to attack me and do something. And it's like, dude, no, they're not. No one's doing that. Like most people are too busy to even care about anyone else. Do you know how many times I drive down the road and I see someone on the side of the road changing a tire and I think to myself, oh man, that sucks, and I keep driving? Like literally all the time. Like who doesn't? Especially in today's day and age. But like seriously, people are in their own little world. They're just doing their own thing. It's not that serious, and it's definitely not that deep. So in my opinion, it kind of seems like your partner might need some kind of therapy. Like, I don't know, man. This really sounds like something that could be worked out with a therapist of some kind, because this is really not normal behavior. If you think everybody's out to get you or in some way trying to offend you, then dude, that is a you problem. That's not an everybody else problem, because most people are not thinking like, oh, I can't wait to offend someone today. Unless there's some unhinged weirdo, which is not the majority of the people. Most people just mind their own business. They do their own thing. They're going in and out of the store to get their crap and get out of there. But regardless, this sounds exhausting. This has been the last 5 years for the original poster, and personally, you're a stronger man than I am, because I probably would have broken up with her by now because I could never deal with this. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and definitely check out Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.